Chapter 511. Although the Golden Raccoon clan was the royal family of the demon race, their bloodline was noble and powerful. But in the past 1,000 years, the number of Golden Raccoon clan members had been decreasing, their talents were also withering, and their power and prestige were not as good as before. Because of this, Kuan Wu was so excited when he found out that Ji Ku was from the Golden Raccoon clan. Moreover, Ji Ku's bloodline and demon power purity were not inferior to his. In the Golden Raccoon clan, she was a top genius. With a little training, she would definitely become a heavenly Yuan powerhouse. She might even reach the spirit refinement realm and become a demon emperor powerhouse. In his excitement, Kuan Wu naturally decided to bring Ji Ku back and take good care of her. However, Ji Tianxing frowned when he heard what Ouyang Ming said. Ji Tianxing looked at him sharply and asked in a deep voice, "Kuan Wu, what do you mean? Do you want to take Ji Ku away?" Kuan Wu looked at him doubtfully and asked back, "Ji Ku is my clansman. Of course, I want to take her away. Isn't that right? Moreover, you can't save her, let alone help her grow stronger. Only I can do that." Kuan Wu took it for granted, and his tone was tough and domineering. "Don't even think about it." Ji Tianxing refused flatly and said firmly, "Even if Ku is from the Golden Raccoon clan, she has the right to choose. Now that she is unconscious, I will make the decision for her. She can't accept the identity of a demon, and it's impossible for her to go with you. Ku has parents and relatives who are the royal family of Qingyun Kingdom. She also has us as her best friends, but she has nothing to do with you. What right do you have to take her away?" Yin, and Qinyu nodded in agreement. "That's right. Kuan Wu, although you are a demon prince, you can't be so overbearing. You have no right to interfere in our affairs. Kuan Wu, Ji Ku will never go with you. Give up." Kuan Wu's face stiffened and anger flashed across his eyes. If someone else had dared to stop him, he would not have cared about their thoughts and decisions. He would have forcefully taken Ji Ku away. However, he knew very well that Ji Tianxing was no ordinary expert. Although he was not at the Heaven Origin stage, he was stronger than a Heaven Origin stage expert. If he wanted to act recklessly, he would definitely have to fight a fierce battle today. Things would also become completely deadlocked, which would not benefit him in the slightest. Thinking of this, Kuan Wu suppressed the anger in his heart and patiently explained, "Ji Tianxing, I've already made it very clear. Ji Ku is a member of the Golden Raccoon clan and definitely not a human. She's definitely not a princess of the Royal Azure Dynasty and has no blood relations with the royal family." As he spoke, he took out a simple and unadorned round mirror from his spatial ring. "This is a secret treasure of my Yao clan, the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror. It can see through the bloodline of a Yao clan and their past and present lives." Everyone's gaze fell on the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror, frowning as they sized it up. They saw that the mirror was the size of 2 palms and was completely bronze in color. The front of the mirror was a blurry mirror surface, while the back was engraved with mysterious patterns and patterns. The edges had already been worn smooth. At a glance, this mirror was an ancient treasure that had experienced thousands of years and exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. As I said earlier, those who were born as Yao Clan will be Yao Clan for all eternity. I'll let you see Ji Ku's past life now, so that you'll know that she has nothing to do with the human race. As Kuan Wu spoke, he executed the Yao Clan's secret technique. He held the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror in his left hand and formed hand seals with his right hand. With a wave of his hand, he shot out rays of silver brilliance and injected them into the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror. A moment later, he was done with the technique, and the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror also lit up with a dazzling silver light. When he held the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror and aimed it at Ji Ku, the mirror burst forth with an invisible, mysterious energy that enveloped Ji Ku. The blurry mirror surface of the mirror also lit up with silver light, forming a silver light screen. The appearance and scene of Ji Ku's past life was about to appear on the silver light screen. Not only was Kuan Wu's eyes filled with anticipation, Ji Tianxing, Yin and Xinyu were also staring intently at the mirror surface of the mirror. However, everyone waited for a full 100 breaths of time and did not see the scene of Ji Ku's past life appear. In the mirror surface of the mirror, there was only a hazy white mist. Other than that, nothing could be seen. Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and looked at Kun Wu suspiciously. Qian Yu curled his lips in disdain and said in a contemptuous tone, "TSK, still a Yao clan's secret treasure? Seeing you boast so much and act so mysterious, I thought it was very magical." Yer also pouted and said with a face full of disdain, "TSK, still an emperor's son, actually playing tricks on others." Kun Wu was both embarrassed and puzzled. His embarrassed face turned pale as he sized up the mirror in puzzlement. How can this be? It's impossible. This sovereign has used this 7 treasures reincarnation mirror countless times. It works every time. How can it not detect Ji Ku's past life? He tried again and again twice, but still could not detect Ji Ku's past life. The mirror still showed a white mist. How can it be so strange? This sovereign does not believe it. Since I can't detect your past life, then this sovereign will look at your present life. Kun Wu frowned and used the secret technique again, sending silver light into the 7 treasures reincarnation mirror. This time, he finally succeeded. The 7 treasures reincarnation mirror finally reacted. On the mirror surface of the mirror, a light screen condensed by silver light appeared, showing a picture. In the picture, there was a towering mountain overflowing with spiritual energy. At the foot of the mountain, there was a winding river like a jade belt. Halfway up the mountain, there was a simple and majestic temple that was full of incense. It was called Guangling Temple. At this moment, there was a majestic royal guard of honor walking from halfway up the mountain to the foot of the mountain. Among the hundreds of people, there were more than 20 royal guards carrying a golden and jade-inlaid dragon carriage. In the dragon carriage sat a middle-aged man wearing a golden dragon robe and a graceful imperial concubine. The emperor and imperial concubine had clearly just bowed to Buddha and were about to leave Guangling Temple. At this moment, the guard of honor was walking on the bluestone official road at the foot of the mountain. In the river next to the official road, a golden koi fish that was 5 to 6 meters long suddenly appeared. That huge golden koi fish was not afraid of people. It slowly swam across the river and stopped by the side of the official road. Koi fish represented auspicious signs, and such a huge golden koi fish was rarely seen in 1,000 years. It meant good fortune from the heavens. The guard of honor immediately stopped. The emperor and imperial concubine in the dragon carriage were also alarmed. A few royal guards went down to the riverbank to check the situation and found that the golden koi fish was carrying a huge shell on its back. A few royal guards worked together to remove the shell. The golden koi fish then dived into the water and disappeared. When the royal guards opened the shell, they found that there was a white and tender baby girl lying in the shell. For a moment, the entire guard of honor was shocked. The royal guards quickly carried the shell to the front of the dragon carriage and presented it to the emperor and imperial concubine. Seeing the cute baby girl sleeping soundly in the shell, the emperor was delighted and happily carried the baby girl. It was strange that the baby girl, who was sleeping soundly, immediately woke up after being carried by the emperor. Moreover, not only did she not cry, she even showed a happy smile to the emperor and imperial concubine. Such a rare thing made the emperor and imperial concubine very excited. The emperor hugged the baby girl and looked up to the sky. No one knew what he said excitedly. Over 100 guards of honor knelt down and kowtowed to the sky. Chapter 512. The image in the 7 treasures reincarnation mirror gradually disappeared. Everyone seemed to have understood something when they saw this. Ji Tianxing frowned and pondered for a moment before whispering to himself, "I suddenly remembered that the image just now was very similar to a legend of the Royal Azure Dynasty. About 10 years ago, the Royal Azure Dynasty Emperor had a beloved concubine. After she was conferred the title of Imperial Concubine, she could not give birth to a child for many years. Later on, after repeated examinations by the palace's imperial physicians, they found that the imperial concubine's body was abnormal and she was born infertile. Since there was no cure, the imperial concubine begged the royal Azure Dynasty emperor to follow her to Guangling Temple to pray that the heavens would give her a child. In the end, the imperial concubine's sincerity moved the heavens. Not long after she and the emperor finished praying, she became pregnant and gave birth to a smart and cute little princess. At this point, Ji Tianxing's tone was a little complicated. The little princess that the heavens gave to the imperial concubine was Ku. That year, this matter spread around the imperial city for a while and caused many people to talk about it. But for some reason, Ku's mother, the imperial concubine, passed away in less than 2 years. Ku's origin was also banned by the palace, and no one was allowed to talk about it anymore. Now it seems that the image just now is somewhat consistent with the legend. However, Ku was not the imperial concubine's child. She was carried by a koi. Yen Er's face was full of surprise, and she nodded in admiration. I didn't expect Junior Ji Ku's origin to be so mysterious and bizarre. The emperor prayed to Buddha, and a koi carried a baby from the river. This is just like a fairy tale. Qin Yu narrowed his eyes and glanced sideways at Kun Wu. He said in a playful tone, "Since Ji Ku is from the Golden Raccoon clan, why did she appear in the royal Azure Dynasty after she was born? She was also lying in a shell and was carried out of the water by a koi. There's something fishy about this. I'm afraid there's a big problem." Kun Wu frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "That's right. Ji Ku's origin is indeed a little bizarre. I know there must be some hidden story and twists and turns. Therefore, after I take Ji Ku away, I will definitely send people to investigate this matter and find out the ins and outs of this matter." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said in a solemn and unquestionable tone, "Kun Wu, I've already said it. Even if Ku is from the Golden Raccoon tribe, you won't be able to take her away today. Whether she stays or goes, only she can decide. No one can force her." Kun was stared at him coldly and asked in a deep voice, "Ji Tianxing, are you really going to stop me? Is there no room for negotiation?" "Of course," Ji Tianxing said in a sonorous tone. Kun Wu furrowed his brows and squinted his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. However, after weighing the pros and cons in silence for a moment, he finally chose to compromise. "Very good. It's Ji Ku's fortune to have a close friend like you protecting her. I can temporarily not take her away and let her make her own choice. However, you must remember to tell her that if she encounters any danger or problem in the future, she can come to Star Moon Manor to find me." Kun Wu said these words with a solemn expression. He then took out a small white jade bottle and handed it to Ji Tianxing. "There are 3 special pills in here. If Ji Ku's monster chi erupts again and she encounters danger, she can take these pills to alleviate it." After saying that, Kun Wu turned around and walked out of the room. He quickly left Clear Jade Court. Ji Tianxing held the small white jade bottle and watched Kun Wu's back as he left. The fierce look in his eyes gradually faded. Seeing that Ji Ku's situation was stable and there was no major problem for the time being, he let Yen and Qin go back to cultivate. He stayed in Ji Ku's room and sat on the bed to cultivate. He also looked after the unconscious Ji Ku. Unknowingly, another few hours had passed. It was late at night. Jade Pure Garden was dark and very quiet. At this time, Ji Ku finally woke up and slowly opened her eyes. She looked around and found that she was still in the room. She secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it didn't see my appearance. However, when she turned her head to look at the bed, she saw Ji Tianxing sitting on the bed cultivating. At that moment, Ji Ku seemed to have been struck by lightning. Her body suddenly stiffened and her expression became very ugly. "Ah, Tianxing Gidge, why are you here?" She subconsciously cried out in alarm, her pretty face revealing a panicked expression, and her heart was instantly thrown into chaos. Ji Tianxing was startled awake. He opened his eyes and looked at her, revealing a look of concern. "Ku, you're finally awake. How do you feel now?" Ji Ku looked at him with tears in her eyes. She repeatedly shook her head and retreated to the corner of the bed. She subconsciously raised her hands to cover her cheeks and golden little ears. However, she didn't want to expose her fluffy claws. She quickly turned her head to the corner of the room with her back facing Ji Tianqing. No, Tianqing Gij quickly turned around. Don't look at me. However, she only wanted to cover her claws and ears. She didn't notice that when her back was facing Ji Tianqing, her fluffy golden tail appeared in front of Ji Tianqing. Tianqing Gij quickly get out. I'm begging you. Ji Ku's tears flowed out of her eyes. Her voice was also sobbing. She was anxious, helpless, and aggrieved. She was at a loss. She couldn't accept that she had turned into a demon. She didn't want the person she loved to see her ugliest appearance. Ji Tianqing naturally understood her feelings. He stood up and sat next to her. He comforted her softly. Cuckoo, we grew up together. We're childhood sweethearts. We're the best friends in the world. No matter what you've experienced, no matter what changes you've undergone, you'll always be the cutest little princess in my heart. As he spoke, he pressed his hands on her shoulders and turned her to face him. Ji Ku faced him, but her head was buried in her chest. She didn't dare to look at his expression or eyes. She was very terrified and afraid to see Ji Tianqing's disappointed expression or disdainful gaze. However, Ji Tianqing continued, Cuckoo, your bloodline and background aren't something you can decide. The identity of a demon is determined from generation to generation. However, you can choose to face it bravely and treat us, your friends, as always. If we're disappointed in you one day, it won't be because you've turned into a demon. It'll be because you're deliberately distancing yourself from us and unwilling to face us. Do you understand? Jika stopped crying. She lowered her head in silence for a long time. Only then did she muster the courage to look up at Ji Tianqing. She stared into Ji Tianqing's eyes. After hesitating for a long time, she asked, Tianqing Gij, I've turned into this appearance. Will you really not dislike me? Chapter 5:13. Jika's ears were pinched by Ji Tianqing. Her sadness, fear, and helplessness quickly dissipated. She was a little shy and uncomfortable. She struggled slightly and asked hesitantly in a low voice, Brother Tianqing, do you really think she's cute? Ji Tianqing nodded and chuckled. Of course, and she's even cuter than Qianyu. As soon as his voice fell, Qianyu's angry voice came from outside the door. Old Ji, you're a guy who forgets his friends for a girl. How dare you speak ill of her behind her back? Immediately after, Qianyu and Yen quickly entered the room. Yen looked at Ji Ku with concern, while Qianyu stared at Ji Tianqing angrily. Ji Tianqing smiled awkwardly and touched the tip of his nose, not explaining anything. When Ji Ku saw Yen and Qianyu, she shrank back unconfidently and wanted to cover her hands and tail with the quilt. She had just calmed down after the sudden change, so her heart was still very sensitive. However, Ji Tianqing, Yen and Qianyu all comforted her, and she gradually calmed down. When Ji Ku's emotions calmed down, Ji Tianqing took out the white jade bottle that Kuan Wu gave him and handed it to Ji Ku. Kuan Wu came by just now and explained the situation clearly to us. You are indeed a demon, and you're from the same clan as Kuan Wu. You're from the noble Golden Raccoon clan. Ji Tianqing told Ji Ku the truth of the matter and explained it to her in detail. He also told her what Kuan Wu said before he left. Cuckoo, this is the truth of the matter. There are very few people in the Golden Raccoon clan, so when Kuan Wu found out that you're from his clan, he wanted to take you away. I didn't agree to this matter. You have to wait until you wake up and make your own decision. Jika couldn't accept the truth and reality for a while. She shook her head without hesitation. No, I don't know that Kuan Wu at all. I will never go with him. Tianqing Gij, no matter what happens, no matter where you go, I will follow you forever. You're the only family I have in the Central State. No matter what, I will not leave you. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. He comforted her softly. Okay, as long as you make the choice, I will support you. I will never force you to do something you don't want to do. Yes. Ji Ku hurriedly nodded. After thinking for a moment, he continued, I'm going to write a letter and send it back to Qingyan Kingdom. I want to ask Imperial Father who I am. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, That's what I should do. Such an important matter should be clarified. All right, Ku, don't let your imagination run wild. Take a good rest these few days. He said a few words to Ji Ku before leaving with Qianyu and Yan Er. He knew very well that Ji Ku was only a 15-year-old girl after all. She needed some time alone to calm down after such a drastic change. Peace was restored in Clear Jade Court. For the next few days, Ji Ku stayed in the room to recuperate. The demonic energy in his body did not act up again. Ji Tianxing saw that her condition had stabilized and entered the secret chamber to cultivate in seclusion. He worked hard to improve his strength. There were only 20 days left before the heavenly consort selection. Time was of the essence. He only wanted to break through to Sky Origin Stage before that day arrived. Although Ji Tianxing had not fought with Long Yun Xiao, he knew that Long Yun Xiao was already at Sky Origin Stage. He also knew that Long Yun Xiao had reached Sky Origin Stage too. He also had many trump cards and secret techniques. His combat strength must be very strong. He could only win the battle with Long Yun Xiao. He could not lose. Only when he broke through to Sky Origin Stage could he guarantee that nothing would go wrong. In the dimly lit secret chamber, Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged in the middle of the spirit-gathering array. His eyes were closed as he silently cultivated. His body was like a whirlpool or a perfect spiritual jade, constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the air. In the sword palace in his body, the 18 sword veins and 108 acupoints were surging with true core strength. It was like a great river flowing endlessly. He continued to cultivate one cycle after another. He used the vigorous true core strength to refine the sword veins and acupoints. He continued to strengthen the power of the sword embryo. As time passed, his strength was slowly increasing. His martial arts foundation was also becoming more and more solid. However, he had been cultivating in seclusion for 10 days. His strength had become more profound, but he still could not touch the shackles of Sky Origin Stage. He could not even touch the shackles of Sky Origin Stage. How could he break through the shackles? He still had a long way to go before he could break through to Sky Origin Stage. Early in the morning, Ji Tianxing was still cultivating in the secret chamber. Suddenly, the deep voice of the burial of heaven rang in his mind. Kid, maybe you should consider opening up another path and change the direction of your cultivation. When Ji Tianxing heard the voice of the burial of heaven, he stopped and ended his cultivation. He communicated with the burial of heaven in his mind. He asked, Burial of heaven, have you woken up? You have been recuperating for so long. Have you recovered your strength? Ever since he fought with the demon emperor, the burial of heaven's strength had been greatly damaged. For the past few months, he had been sleeping in the Kenshin tomb. The burial of heaven replied concisely, It's nothing serious. That's good. Ji Tianxing responded. Then he asked doubtfully, Burial of heaven, just now you asked me to change the direction of my cultivation. What do you mean? The burial of heaven said in a deep voice, The martial Tao is like the sword Tao. You must have the determination and will to move forward courageously. Sometimes, you must take an unconventional path. You are now cultivating in seclusion to strengthen your martial Tao foundation and increase your strength. Hopefully, you can break through to Sky Origin Stage smoothly. This is the right path of the martial Tao. It is also one of the ways to break through to Sky Origin Stage. However, your cultivation method of dripping water to penetrate a stone really consumes too much time. Maybe after 3 to 5 years of cultivation, you will be able to break through to the Sky Yuan Stage. But you don't have that much time. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and agreed. That's right. I will challenge Long Yun Xiao in the Apocalypse Heaven Pagoda in half a month. That battle is not only related to my and Yin Yao's future, but also whether I can enter the Monarch Mansion. It is even related to my life and death. I only have half a month, but I can only win, not lose. The burial of heaven said loudly, Since you only have half a month, all the more you should try. You have cultivated the 8th level of the Sword Heart in advance. Now your body is comparable to a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. If you want to break through to Sky Origin Stage, you should think about it carefully. What is the difference between you and a sky origin stage cultivator? What do you lack? Ji Tianxing was stunned. He answered without hesitation, my body has reached sky origin stage. What I lack is true essence. A sky origin stage cultivator can control the power of the 5 elements, but I have mastered the true essence of metal and fire. The Burial of Heaven said in a gratified tone, that's right. You really understood it. Chapter 514. Burial of Heaven's pointers and suggestions allowed Ji Tianxing to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Although this method went against common sense and sounded rather inconceivable, ordinary martial artists would first reach the sky origin stage before being able to cultivate true essence of other attributes and gradually master the power of the 5 elements. However, Buried Heaven's method was the exact opposite of what was expected. Ji Tianxing had to cultivate the power of the 5 elements first before breaking through to the sky origin stage. Ordinary martial artists would never dare to attempt such a thing that went against common sense and reversed the cultivation sequence. Once an accident occurred, it would cause damage to the martial arts foundation. In the best-case scenario, one's cultivation would drop greatly, and in the worst-case scenario, one would go mad and lose one's cultivation overnight. But Ji Tianxing dared to attempt it and had the corresponding qualifications to take the risk and cultivate the power of the 5 elements. Because he was different. Although he had not reached the sky origin stage, his body was already comparable to a sky origin stage martial artist and could withstand the power of the 5 elements. Moreover, he had already mastered the power of metal and fire, so he had a certain foundation. After making up his mind, Ji Tianxing thanked Burial of Heaven. Burial of Heaven, thank you for your reminder and pointers. After speaking, he suddenly thought of something and asked, oh right, Burial of Heaven, did Kenshin also use this strange method when he broke through to the sky origin stage? Burial of Heaven said in a low voice, how extraordinary is Kenshin's talent? The bottleneck and martial arts shackles to ordinary martial artists were a smooth path to him. Moreover, when I had consciousness, he had already reached a stage that was close to God, so how would I know what happened to him when he was young? Ji Tianxing was rather shocked when he heard this, and his heart was filled with envy. How good would it be if I could have Kenshin's extraordinary talent? Burial of Heaven said solemnly, in less than a year, you've reached the 9th level of the origin core stage from the true origin stage and are about to step into the sky origin stage. In the entire profound sky continent, there's probably no one who can compare to such a shocking talent. Even compared to Kenshin, you're slightly better. Kid, you should be content. Ji Tianxing replied, that may be the case, but I'm pressed for time. I can't delay any longer. I just want to reach the sky origin stage as soon as possible and defeat Long Yin Xiao. Only then will I be able to solve all my problems. Buried Heaven responded and then fell silent. He did not say another word. Ji Tianxing also got up and left the secret room to find the Beast King. A quarter of an hour later, he entered the house where the Beast King lived. The Beast King was currently teaching Qianyu a set of cultivation techniques. Seeing Ji Tianxing arrive, he led him into the guest hall for a chat. After the two of them sat down in the guest hall, the Beast King sized him up and smiled. Tianxing, you've been cultivating in seclusion for 10 days. Your strength has improved again. Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in greeting and said, Senior, I've come to find you because of the matter of cultivation. I'd like to ask you a question. The Beast King nodded and said, speak frankly if you have any doubts. This old man will definitely tell you everything he knows. Ji Tianxing didn't beat around the bush and said directly, Senior, I've been stuck at the 9th level of the origin core stage for a few months and have been deeply shackled by the martial Tao. I've been unable to break through to the sky origin stage for a long time. After thinking about it, I've decided to take a different path and cultivate the 5-element energy in advance and borrow this method to break through the shackles. Oh, the Beast King instantly raised his brows and said with a surprised expression, Nephew actually wants to use this method? This method goes against common sense and doesn't conform to the common sense of martial Tao cultivation. This old man once heard that some martial artists were unable to break through to the sky origin stage for a long time and wanted to use this method to break through. But none of those martial artists succeeded. Their fleshly bodies were completely unable to withstand the five-element energy, and the final outcome was either death or injury. "Nephew, have you thought it through?" Ji Tianxing said with a solemn expression. "Senior, I'm naturally clear about this. But don't worry, I'm confident that I can withstand the five-element energy, and there won't be any accidents." The Beast King frowned and weighed the pros and cons for a moment, then nodded and said, "That's right. Nephew, your innate talent is extraordinary and different from ordinary people. You should have hoped to succeed and create a miracle." Ji Tianxing continued, "Senior, now that I only have half a month's time, do you have any methods to allow me to quickly cultivate the five-element energy?" A method to quickly cultivate the five-element energy? The Beast King frowned and pondered. He pondered for a moment and said with a serious expression, "In this old man's opinion, why don't you try to cultivate together with Qianyu and study a joint attack technique? Qianyu is your beast pet, and if you two practice and communicate more, you can achieve the effect of telepathy and have a tacit understanding of each other. If the two of you can cooperate so closely that you can borrow each other's strength and join forces to attack together, you'll be able to indirectly possess each other's strength." Hearing the Beast King's words, Ji Tianxing and Qianyu were stunned for a moment. Ji Tianxing looked at Qianyu and nodded. "That's right. Qianyu has the water and ice attributes, which is exactly what I need. Senior, please teach us how to cultivate a joint attack technique." The Beast King smiled. He took out a book from his interspatial ring and handed it to Ji Tianxing. "Nephew, this is a joint attack secret technique that I've spent decades researching. It's called the Spirit Channeling Heaven Technique." Ji Tianxing took the book with both hands and bowed to the Beast King. "Senior, you are willing to teach me all of your life's work. I can't thank you enough." The Beast King stroked his beard and nodded with a smile. "No need to be so polite. You can count this on your master. Next time I see him, I will ask for more wine from him." Ji Tianxing smiled and said goodbye to the Beast King. He left with Qianyu. He didn't start cultivating right away after he returned to his residence. Before he started cultivating, he had something important to do. He wrote a letter and asked White Ape to send it to the Forest of Divine Monuments to the Emperor's mansion. He had already told Godmaster He Yu and the other princes that he wanted to challenge Long Yanshao. However, this matter required a formal process. He had a hand in the letter in order to be formal and serious enough. After dealing with the letter, Ji Tianxing pulled Qianyu into a secret room to study and comprehend the spirit communication. Of course, Qianyu also wanted to study and cultivate with him. This spirit communication was the culmination of the Beast King's life's work. It required both martial artists and spiritual beasts to cultivate at the same time. The two of them had to cultivate and deepen their tacit understanding through cultivation so that they could work together and gather their powers as one. Even if Ji Tianxing hadn't mastered the water attribute, he could borrow Qianyu's power to use the water attribute vital essence. Qianyu was the same. He could borrow Ji Tianxing's power to use the metal and fire attribute vital essence. Although the spirit communication was very profound and complicated, it was difficult to understand. However, with Ji Tianxing's innate talent and aptitude, he quickly comprehended this secret technique. He and Qianyu understood the secret technique and tried to cultivate it. Please recommend me. Chapter 5:15. Inside the Monarch Mansion. At the peak of a mountain, there was a black feather palace in the sea of clouds formed by five-colored spiritual clouds. At this moment, a huge pitch-black vulture flew through the sea of colorful clouds at lightning speed and landed outside the gate of the black feather palace. A guard in black armor jumped down from the back of the spiritual eagle. He held a golden invitation and quickly walked into the black feather palace. In the spacious and bright hall, Divine Master Blackfeather was sitting cross-legged in the hall. He was cultivating with his eyes closed. The guard in black armor quickly walked into the hall and held the golden invitation respectfully. He knelt down on one knee and reported, "Divine Master Black Feather, I have an invitation." God Sovereign Black Feather opened his eyes that were as sharp as lightning. He looked at the golden invitation expressionlessly. He didn't seem to move at all, but with his invisible soul power, he wrapped the golden invitation and flew it to him with a whoosh. He opened the gilded greeting card. After reading the contents, his originally cold eyes flashed with a trace of ripples. However, he did not comment on the contents of the invitation. He closed the invitation and ordered the guard in black armor calmly, "Go to the Yunxiao Palace and ask Long Yunxiao to come and see me." "Yes." The guard in black armor cupped his hands and walked out of the hall. He stepped on the black spiritual eagle and flew toward the Yunxiao Palace. About an hour later, the guard in black armor returned with a young man in a golden robe. It was Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao entered the main hall and respectfully bowed to God Sage Heiyu. "Prince Long Yunxiao greets Divine Master Black Feather. Do you have any orders?" Divine Master Black Feather flicked his finger, and the golden invitation flew over a dozen meters and landed in front of Long Yunxiao. "This is the invitation that Ji Tianxing just handed over. In 15 days, he will challenge you on the Apocalypse Tower. According to the rules of the Monarch Mansion, the challenge has to be held on the Monarch stage. A divine master from the Monarch Mansion will be present to supervise. I remember that is the day you choose your heavenly concubine. There is a conflict between the dates. I plan to postpone the challenge for a few days. What do you think?" Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and said solemnly, "Divine Master Heiyu, there is no need to postpone the date. I have already made plans and preparations. When the time comes, I will not go to the Apocalypse Pagoda. I will hold it on the Emperor's platform. The 3 heavenly concubine candidates have all arrived in the central continent." Divine Master Black Feather nodded slightly and said, "All right, since you have decided, I will make the arrangements. If there's nothing else, you may leave and prepare." Long Yunxiao bowed and walked out of the hall. After leaving the Black Feather Palace, he flew across the sky at lightning speed, heading towards one of the peaks in the mountains. About an hour later, he landed on a lofty mountain and arrived at the gate of Yunyao Palace. Without a doubt, this mountain peak and the magnificent palace were Yunyao's abode. Within the monarch manor, more than 50 princes each occupied a mountain range, a mountain peak, and a palace. The names of the mountains and palaces were basically decided by the names of the princes. Long Yunxiao walked towards the gate of the palace. The guards at the gate immediately stopped him and bowed. "Your Majesty, please wait. If you need to see my lady, please allow me to inform her." There were more than 100 guards and maids in Yunyao Palace. These people were all arranged by the Cloud Spirit Palace. They were also the guards of honor when Yunyao went out. The guards and maids in the palace all knew Long Yunxiao. They also knew that he was deeply in love with their lady. Naturally, they did not dare to neglect or offend him. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said calmly, "Go and report to Yao Yao. Tell her that I have important news to tell her. Please wait for a moment." A black-armored guard quickly turned and went into the palace to report the news. Long Yunxiao stood at the gate and waited for about half an hour before the guard returned. The guard hesitated for a moment before he braced himself and said, "Your Majesty, my lady is cultivating in seclusion. It is not convenient for her to see any guests. Please go back." Long Yunxiao smiled and said calmly, "In the past 2 months, I've come to find Yao Yao more than 10 times. Every time, she replied like this: 'She doesn't want to see me.' Does she not even bother to change her excuse?" The guard was filled with fear. He lowered his head stiffly and did not dare to reply. Long Yunxiao continued, "Go and report to her again. Tell her that the news I want to tell her is related to Ji Tianxing." The guard was stunned. He did not know who Ji Tianxing was. However, he did not say much. He went into the palace again and repeated Long Yunxiao's words word for word. This time, when the guard walked out of the palace and came to the gate, Yunyao finally appeared. She was dressed in a long white dress. She walked out of the palace with light steps and walked towards the gate with an indifferent expression. Multicolored spiritual clouds lingered around her body, making her look like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She was pure and holy, pure and noble. Long Yun Xiao gazed at her affectionately, a hint of gentleness surging in his eyes. After a while, Yun Yao came to the gate and stood 10 steps away from him. She said indifferently, "Long Yun Xiao, if you have something to say, say it here." Long Yun Xiao forced a smile and sighed. "Yao Yao, I thought that after you entered the monarch mansion, I would be able to see you every day and night. I never thought that I would have to use Ji Tianxing's name to see you." Sigh. Yin Yao said with a calm expression, "If you just want to trick me into seeing you, then please go back." After saying that, she turned around and was about to leave. Long Yun Xiao quickly said, "Wait, I really have something to say to you this time." Just now, the monarch mansion received Ji Tianxing's invitation. "Divine Teacher, hey, you also summoned me to discuss this matter. In 15 days, I've decided to choose a heavenly consort on the monarch stage and have a duel with Ji Tianxing in public." Yin Yao looked at him quietly. She didn't say anything, and there wasn't the slightest ripple in her eyes. Obviously, no matter where Long Yun Xiao chose a heavenly consort, she was indifferent. Long Yun Xiao smiled and said gently, "Yao Yao, choosing you as a heavenly consort on the monarch stage is not as grand as holding a ceremony on the Apocalypse Tower. I know that my decision has made you feel wronged. However, I will do my best to arrange everything. Even if the ceremony is held on the monarch stage, it will be grand and sacred. I will not be rude." Yin Yao said calmly, "This is your business. It has nothing to do with me. You don't have to explain it to me." Long Yin Xiao was still smiling. He said with a touched tone, "Yao Yao, thank you for your understanding. I already know that you are the most reasonable and considerate. Don't worry. Half a year later, when you officially marry into the imperial court, I will make it up to you and hold the grandest ceremony for you." However, before he could finish, Yin Yao turned around and left. Chapter 516. Time flew by, and 15 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning, Ji Tianxing and Qian Yu finished their cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. Ji Tianxing stood at the door of the secret chamber with a smile on his face. He said in a serious tone, "The day has finally arrived. Today, I have something very important to do." Qian Yu looked at him with a smile and said playfully, "Old Ji, you seem to be in a good mood. Are you confident?" "Of course." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. He then reached out and patted Qian Yu's head. "Qian Yu, I really have to thank you this time." Qian Yu smiled proudly and said proudly, "Of course. I am the Honorable Heavenly Fox. However, if we really want to talk about it, both of us have to thank the old man Beast King. His spirit communication heaven technique is really amazing." As soon as Qian Yu finished speaking, Yin Er's voice came from outside the room. "Senior brother Tianxing, have you come out of seclusion?" Ji Tianxing walked to the door and saw a few people standing outside. Yin Er, Ji Ku, and the Beast King were all there. They were looking at him with anticipation. "Tianxing, how's your cultivation of the spiritualization technique coming along?" "Senior brother Tianxing, is today the day you challenge the emperor?" "Brother Tianxing, are you ready?" Apparently, the three of them knew that Ji Tianxing and Long Yun Xiao were going to challenge each other. Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. He said to the three of them, "I am ready. Today, I will settle all my grudges in the apocalyptic tower and enter the imperial mansion." The Beast King smiled and stroked his beard. He said, "Tianxing, today's challenge will not be held in the apocalyptic tower. It will be held in the imperial stage." Half a month ago, the imperial mansion and the emperor announced that the location of the challenge will be held in the imperial stage. The news has already spread throughout Zhong State City. Today, the imperial stage will be very lively, and it will attract tens of thousands of people. Imperial stage? Ji Tianxing frowned. He was surprised by the news. However, he did not care about it. He smiled and said, "Whether it is the apocalyptic tower or the imperial stage, the result will be the same. Let's go." Ji Tianxing led Qian Yu, Yin Er, Ji Ku, the Beast King, and the others and left the imperial stage. Of the imperial stage's imperial stage, the monarch stage was 1,000 meters tall, ancient and sacred altar. This altar was located in the enormous plaza at the center of the city. It was Central Continent City's core and holy land. Its status was lofty, dignified, and divine. Ever since the Monarch Mansion was established, the Monarch Stage had always stood tall in Central State City. It already had several thousand years of history, of the Imperial. In addition, every martial Dao genius who wanted to enter the Monarch Mansion had to challenge an Imperial Prince on the Monarch Stage. Every time a genius challenged an Imperial Prince on the Imperial Stage, it would cause a stir in the city. Tens of thousands of people would gather around the Imperial Stage to watch. Regardless of whether the challenge was successful or not, the news would spread to the four continents. If someone succeeded in the challenge, they would be able to enter the Imperial Mansion and become famous in the eyes of the people of Zhongzhou City. An hour later, Ji Tianxing and the others arrived at the center of the city. Before they even entered the square, they saw that the huge square with a circumference of 10 miles was already filled with a sea of people. As far as the eye could see, the entire square had been completely filled. There were people everywhere, and it was a scene of extreme congestion. However, the commoners were still filled with excitement. They discussed excitedly and waited in anticipation. The Imperial Square was filled with people. Even the buildings and streets around the Imperial Square were filled with people. When Ji Tianxing saw the surging sea of people all around him, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. The Imperial Square is filled. Do the people of Zhongzhou like to watch a show? Yano was also shocked. He exclaimed, "Senior Beast King, these are not just tens of thousands of people. I think there are at least 100,000 people." The Beast King smiled and nodded. "That's right. Today is a special day. Not only is it the day Tianxing challenges the Imperial Prince, it is also the day the Imperial Prince chooses his Imperial concubine." After the news spread, it caused a stir in the whole of Zhongzhou City. The people of all races want to watch the show, so there are so many people here. Speaking of this, he looked at Ji Tianxing with a smile. He said with expectation, "Tianxing, if you want to make a name for yourself, your name will shake the world. You must seize this opportunity today." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a solemn expression, "I understand." After saying this, he led everyone through the crowd and walked towards the Imperial Stage in the middle of the square. Although the square was crowded, everyone was a martial arts expert. They released a trace of true qi without leaving a trace and pushed the people in front of them away. At first glance, it looked like wherever they passed, the people nearby took the initiative to step back. Not long after, everyone arrived at the center of the square and stopped in front of the Imperial Stage. Ji Tianxing raised his head and looked at the Monarch Stage with a calm expression. He saw that the Imperial Stage was 1,000 meters tall. It was made of an unknown, mysterious stone. It was grayish-brown in color. The surface of the Imperial Stage was covered with mottled traces of wind and frost. It revealed an ancient aura, as well as a majestic, divine aura. The Imperial Stage was in the shape of a pyramid. The bottom was round, and the top was round. On the left and right sides of the Imperial Stage, there were two sky ascension stairs made of dark golden bricks. The two sky ascension stairs had 999 steps, directly connecting the ground to the Imperial Stage at the top. The Imperial Stage was 1,000 meters high and had a radius of several hundred meters. It was surrounded by grayish-white jade railings, and there were 36 strange beast statues. Those railings and the majestic strange beast statues were the decorations of the Imperial Stage, and also the foundation of the mysterious array. Today, the Imperial Prince would choose his future Imperial concubine in front of everyone. It was a joyous day. Therefore, the white jade railings around the Imperial Stage were hung with vermilion lanterns, wrapped with countless red silk and silk. In addition, there were more than 30 black armored guards from the Imperial residence. They stood motionless around the Imperial Stage, exuding a solemn and dignified aura. The Imperial Stage was solemn and grand. Below the Imperial Stage, nearly 100,000 people of the Central State had gathered. It was extremely lively and noisy. All of this caused Ji Tianxing's expression to turn solemn. The depths of his eyes burned with a strong desire to fight. He looked up at the imperial stage and silently clenched his fists. His eyes were firm and persistent. He said in a confident tone, "Today's battle is about the future and life of the people." Chapter 517. Just as Ji Tianxing and the others were waiting in silence, and the 100,000 people were discussing, in the sky not far away, a five-colored stream of light suddenly appeared. Swoosh! The five-colored stream of light streaked across the sky like a rainbow and arrived above the square in the blink of an eye. The five-colored light stopped in midair and revealed a tall and mighty figure. This person was a young man of about 30 years old. His face was resolute and handsome, and his thick eyebrows were slanted into his temples. His eyes were bright and filled with a domineering aura. He was wearing a luxurious green robe embroidered with golden dragons and phoenixes. It was inlaid with silver edges and had a pair of heaven-ascending fire-treading boots on his feet. The countless commoners and martial practitioners on the square below all looked up at him. Soon, the human martial artists recognized his identity. They all revealed excited expressions and began to discuss among themselves. "Look, it's the Crown Prince, Duanmu Yulong. It's really him. I expected that many crown princes would come to watch the battle today. I didn't expect him to be the first to arrive. Duanmu Yulong, the 9th crown prince of the imperial residence. He is one of the most outstanding crown princes of the human race. He is indeed in high spirits." Many human martial artists admired Duanmu Yulong and saw him as the pride of the human race. Many human women, regardless of whether they were married or not, were looking at Duanmu Yulong with shining eyes, revealing deep adoration. Only some of the people of the demon race and the water race had heard of Duanmu Yulong's name. Those who didn't know the inside story asked their companions about Duanmu Yulong's background. "What is the background of that Duanmu Yulong? He seems to be a crown prince?" But seeing the reaction of the human race, it seems that this crown prince is very famous. "You don't even know Duanmu Yulong? He is the 9th crown prince of the imperial residence and the eldest son of the Duanmu family. He is the future head of the family." The Duanmu family? Could it be the Duanmu family, one of the 3 great families of the human race in Central State? No wonder. The 3 great families of the human race in Central State are all ancient families with thousands of years of history. Their strength and status are second only to the imperial court. Even if that Duanmu Yulong is not an emperor's son, his status is noble enough. Just as everyone was discussing spiritedly, another 5-colored spiritual light appeared in the sky not far away. The multicolored radiance arrived above the square and stopped 100 steps away from Duanmu Yulong. The 5-colored brilliance dissipated, revealing a tall and slender figure. At first glance, this white-robed figure had a graceful posture and a slender figure, like a peerless beauty. However, this person was a human youth. His cheeks were fair and delicate, his brows were picturesque, his thin lips were lightly pursed, and his eyes were as clear as 2 deep pools. He was even more seductive and beautiful than those famous peerless beauties in the Central State. This person's beauty was enough to move the hearts of men and make countless women jealous and feel ashamed of their own inferiority. He wore a blue robe that was similarly embroidered with a dragon and phoenix design and cloud-patterned golden edges. His attire and aura were in no way inferior to Duanmu Yulong's. Moreover, he had a string of grayish-white beads in his left hand and a green jade folding fan in his right hand. He was dressed like a distinguished and elegant scholar. As he waved the green jade folding fan in his right hand, one could see a star map engraved on the front of the fan. On the back of the fan, there were 4 simple and vigorous words: Murong Lingfeng. When the countless commoners in the square saw Murong Lingfeng's appearance, they immediately burst into a clamor of discussion. Murong Lingfeng is here too, the 7th emperor's son of the monarch mansion, the eldest son of the Murong family, the number 1 genius. Today is the day of the emperor's heavenly consort selection. The descendants of the Duanmu family and the Murong family are the first to arrive. It looks like these two families are very close to the imperial court. Murong Lingfeng's ranking and strength are both higher than Duanmu Yulong's. Although this person is the most handsome man in the central state, his methods are even more terrifying. It is said that in the monarch mansion, the human emperors are divided into 3 factions. Murong Lingfeng is the leader of one of the factions. The 100,000 ancient martial art practitioners and commoners in the square were discussing excitedly. Murong Lingfeng stood in the sky for a long time, ignoring everyone below. He calmly looked at Duanmu Yulong with a smile on his lips. He cupped his hands and greeted him. I thought I was early enough, but I didn't expect you to be even more impatient. Duanmu Yulong also cupped his hands and replied with a calm expression. Today is the day of the Emperor's heavenly consort selection. He wants to choose Yun Yao as his heavenly consort. How can I not be present? The two of them were talking through their spiritual sense, so no one else could hear them. Murong Lingfeng revealed a playful smile and said, Duanmu, you want to personally watch your beloved marry someone else as a concubine? Is this also a kind of cultivation? Duanmu Yulong glanced at him expressionlessly and sternly said, Brother Murong, let's not talk about the past. I only admired Yun Yao when she was young. After she left the central state for many years, I have long forgotten about her. Moreover, as the eldest son of the Duanmu family, how can I marry the daughter of the Yun family? Even if we become husband and wife, it will still end in tragedy. Murong Lingfeng didn't give him any face and mocked him with a mocking smile. Hee, Brother Duanmu, you're thinking too much, aren't you? Yun Yao's temperament is as cold as ice. She's unreasonable and doesn't know how to talk about love. You still want to marry her? Wake up. In my opinion, the Duanmu family doesn't allow you to interact with the Yun family. You can't compete with Long Yunxiao, so you gave up on your obsession, right? Duanmu Yulong raised his brows and retorted with a smile. That's right. I can't compete with Long Yunxiao, but can Brother Murong compete with him? That sister you're thinking about is rude to you, but she wants to marry Long Yunxiao. That's right. You haven't seen in Soin for many years, right? When Long Yunxiao chooses his heavenly consort, you'll be able to see her on the monarch stage and show off her charm to Long Yunxiao. Murong Lingfeng's face immediately darkened and the corner of his mouth fiercely twitched. He gently waved his green jade fan and expressionlessly said, Soin isn't that kind of person. It's just that the Yin family wants to climb the social ladder and rely on the imperial court. Soin has always been kind and filial. She doesn't want to go against her parents' orders. After today, when Long Yunxiao chooses Yun Yao as his consort, I'll let Soin stay in the central state. The two of them chatted for a while and then fell silent. After a while, Duanmu Yulong broke the silence. He no longer exchanged sarcastic remarks with Murong Lingfeng. His gaze was gloomy and his tone was solemn. No matter what, once Yun Yao becomes a heavenly consort today, our plans will have to change. Murong Lingfeng also waved his fan and said with a serious expression, These past few years, Long Yunxiao has been secretly helping the Yun family and obstructing our plans. It's indeed a bit troublesome. Now that he's taking Yun Yao as his consort, he can openly support the Yun family. When the time comes, the Yun family will be able to recover. Duanmu Yulong nodded, and his lips curled into a playful smile. He said, Brother Murong, do you still remember that brat called Ji Tianqing? Of course I remember. That person wants to challenge Long Yunxiao today. Murong Lingfeng slightly nodded. Duanmu Yulong sneered. That day, Ji Tianqing barged into the monarch mansion and caused a disturbance in front of all the princes. I saw that his expression was a bit strange when he talked to Yun Yao. Long Yunxiao's reaction was also a bit strange. I feel that this person's relationship with Yun Yao isn't shallow. It's definitely not as simple as a martial sister and a martial brother. Chapter 518. Duanmu Yulong and Murong Lingfeng stood proudly in the sky against the wind. The two of them communicated with their spiritual senses for a while and then fell silent, waiting for the show to begin. Not long after, streaks of 5-colored spiritual light were converging from all directions in the sky. These people were the princes of the monarch mansion. Most of them were from the human clan, and only a few were from the Demon Clan and the Water Clan. Some of them flew with the wind, some of them rode on majestic spiritual beasts, and a few princes rode on flying artifacts. More than 20 princes from the 3 clans arrived and stopped in the sky above the square. Everyone spread out and stood proudly in the sky, looking down at the Emperor's stage below, as well as the 100,000 martial artists and people. Every time a crown prince arrived, the people in the square would burst into a burst of discussion and cheers. All the commoners and martial artists were filled with excitement and excitement. After all, the princes of the Monarch Mansion were very noble and rarely showed up. All of them were very mysterious. Every few years, when someone challenged a prince, the princes would come to watch the battle and show up in front of the people. To countless people, being able to see more than 20 princes with their own eyes today was not a waste of their lives. On the south side of the square, there was a majestic pagoda that was nearly 1,000 meters tall. In a room on the top floor of the pagoda, 2 human clan powerhouses were standing by the window, silently watching the square and the Emperor's stage not far away. Of the 2 human clan powerhouses, one was a middle-aged man with a resolute face and a righteous aura. The other was an old man with white hair, but he had white hair and a youthful face. He was hale and hearty, and he had a sage-like temperament. Although both of them were wearing ordinary clothes, they did not wear luxurious clothes, jade crowns, or ornaments. However, both of them had a domineering and majestic aura that looked down on all living beings in the world. There was no doubt that both of them were very noble and had a high status. The white-haired old man looked at the situation in the square, stroked his beard, and said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, with our status, will be a joke if others find out that we've disguised ourselves to watch the Emperor's concubine selection." The middle-aged man was the Emperor. Hearing this, he couldn't help but frown and said in a low voice, "Imperial tutor, as long as you don't tell anyone, who will know that we were here. This Emperor's son is going to choose a concubine in front of everyone. What's wrong with this Emperor coming to watch?" The Imperial tutor stroked his beard and said with an amiable smile, "Yes, your Majesty is right." However, the Emperor favored Yun Yao, and the Yun family had already agreed to this matter. This matter has already been decided, so why would the Imperial monarch need to personally come and watch? The Tharge frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, 2 months ago, I had already made arrangements for the Enlightening Heaven Pagoda. He did not expect that Cloud Sky would actually change his mind at the last minute and place the ceremony on the monarch stage. If the ceremony was too simple, it would definitely make the Yun family feel dissatisfied, and they would inevitably feel that they were neglected and looked down upon. This emperor has asked Cloud Sky, but he said that he has his own plans. This emperor wants to see with his own eyes what exactly he wants to do. The imperial tutor frowned and thought for a moment before comforting. The emperor is probably doing this because he wants to follow the rules of the emperor residence. After all, there is a kid called Ji Tianxing who wants to challenge the emperor, and this challenge must be held on the emperor's stage. Perhaps the emperor wants to defeat that kid first before choosing a concubine. This way, it will be more festive and lively. The emperor was silent for a moment before nodding and saying, "It's good that Cloud Sky has his own ideas and plans. However, this emperor has a bad premonition in his heart. I just hope that nothing goes wrong during today's ceremony. The imperial court cannot afford to lose face like this." The imperial tutor waved his hand and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, don't worry. With the emperor's strength and methods, there won't be any problems." The emperor didn't say anything else. He looked at the emperor's stage calmly and waited quietly. Not long after, 28 princes had gathered around the emperor's stage. 100,000 cultivators and commoners had gathered in the plaza, and the entire plaza was completely packed. In the palaces and pavilions around the plaza, there were people from various races and powerful forces who were silently watching the emperor's stage. At this moment, in the sky above the forest of divine monuments, a black stream of light flew towards the emperor's stage as fast as lightning. That black stream of light was like a pair of huge wings. It looked very mysterious and contained an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Swish! In just a few breaths, That pair of black light wings crossed thousands of meters in the sky and landed on the Emperor's stage. A tall and thin figure appeared and stood proudly in the middle of the Emperor's stage. This black-robed, middle-aged man with a cold expression and a mysterious and majestic aura was Divine Master Blackfeather. He stood on the Emperor's stage and looked down at the plaza with an indifferent expression. His entire body emitted an invisible divine soul pressure that immediately shrouded the entire plaza. The 100,000 cultivators and commoners in the plaza all felt chills all over their bodies, and their souls trembled slightly. In the blink of an eye, the 100,000 people quieted down and looked up at Divine Master Blackfeather with reverence and worship. This was the power and majesty of a soul refinement realm expert. If it was in a mundane kingdom, a soul refinement realm expert would be able to fight against 1,000,000 soldiers. When the plaza fell into silence and there was no more noise, Divine Master Blackfeather spoke in an indifferent voice. The Emperor residence has been passed down for ages and has always been established and governed by martial arts. Now that martial arts is flourishing and geniuses of various races are emerging in large numbers, this is the fortune of all races in the world. Divine Master Blackfeather's voice wasn't loud, but it was cold and majestic, as if he was announcing an announcement. However, his voice contained the power of the divine soul. It enveloped a radius of 10 miles and was clearly transmitted into everyone's mind. Today, the genius of a human race, Ji Tianxing, will challenge the 53rd Prince, Long Yunxiao, on the Emperor's stage. May the heavens bear witness, the ancestors of the Emperor residence bear witness, and the millions of commoners bear witness. Divine Master Blackfeather solemnly said the words "bear witness," and even bowed to the heavens, looking extremely sacred. Seeing this scene, everyone in the plaza was nervous. They stared at the Emperor's stage with their eyes wide open, and their hearts were filled with anticipation. Divine Master Blackfeather spoke again in a deep voice. I, Blackfeather, will be presiding over today's assessment. Now, may the challenger, Ji Tianxing, please ascend the Emperor's stage. As his voice fell, Ji Tianxing, who was in the crowd below the stage, turned into a golden flowing light and flew up to the sky with a swoosh, landing on the Emperor's stage. Instantly, the gazes of the 100,000 people in the square all landed on Ji Tianxing. None of the commoners and cultivators of various races knew him, let alone heard of his name. Everyone was filled with curiosity as they sized him up and discussed in low voices. Chapter 519. Ji Tianxing stood on the monarch stage with a calm expression, as if nothing had happened. Although there were 100,000 people on the square looking at him, countless people were whispering to each other. Some were looking at him suspiciously, some were teasing him, and some were mocking him with disdain. All sorts of voices surged into his ears like a torrent. However, he didn't have any stage fright or fear, nor was he excited. His emotions were as calm as his expression. He waited quietly on the monarch stage. His target was only Long Yunxiao. As for the 100,000 people on the square and the more than 20 princes in the sky, they were all ignored by him. At this moment, Divine Master Blackfeather said loudly, "Now, let's welcome Prince Long Yunxiao to the stage." As his voice fell, a colorful spiritual light flew out from one of the palaces at the edge of the square. Swoosh! The colorful spiritual light streaked across the sky. After a few breaths, it passed through half of the square and landed on the monarch stage. As the colorful light faded, a young man in a golden robe appeared. This man was tall and handsome. He exuded a dignified and noble aura. He was the Emperor, Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao looked at Ji Tianxing, who was 100 steps away, and said indifferently, "Ji Tianxing, I have been waiting for this day for a long time." Ji Tianxing stared at him and said calmly, "I have been waiting for this day for a long time too. After today, I hope you will still remember what you said half a year ago." Long Yunxiao frowned and sneered. He said proudly, "Today, you will lose for sure. Moreover, you will not live past today." Ji Tianxing said confidently, The one who will lose for sure is you. Then let's wait and see. Long Yun Shao narrowed his eyes, the corner of his mouth holding a thick sneer. At the same time, Divine Master Black Feather waved his palms and released thousands of colorful lights. The lights were shot into the railings and strange beast statues around the monarch stage. The defensive array of the monarch stage was activated. A colorful light barrier with a radius of a few hundred meters appeared and enveloped the entire monarch stage. The palm-thick translucent light shield actually had a very strong defense. Cultivators below the soul refining stage. Not even a sky origin stage cultivator could destroy it. In this way, no matter how intense the battle between Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao was on the monarch stage, the shockwaves from the battle wouldn't spread out and harm the commoners in the plaza. After activating the defensive array, God Mentor Black Feather announced loudly, "I hereby announce that the challenge begins now." After saying that, his figure flashed and passed through the defensive formation, flying high into the sky. He stood in the sky, overlooking the entire arena from above, supervising this challenge. Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao no longer hesitated. They immediately launched their attacks. Long Yunxiao's palm flashed, and a golden sword appeared. It was the Nine-Cloud Sword. He held the Nine-Cloud Sword in his hand and unleashed all of his power. The blade of the sword lit up with dazzling five-colored spiritual light, which condensed into a huge sword light that was 10 meters long. Soaring Sword. Long Yunxiao shouted in a low voice as he swung the Nine-Cloud Sword towards Ji Tianxing. The 10-meter-long five-colored sword light suddenly pierced through the sky like lightning and arrived in front of Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was already prepared. He took out the Black Dragon Sword and brazenly unsheathed it to meet Long Yunxiao. Soaring Dragon from the Ninth Heaven. He held the scabbard in his left hand and the hilt of the Black Dragon Sword in his right hand. He pulled out the Black Dragon Sword and slashed at Long Yunxiao. Swoosh! The moment the Black Dragon Sword came out of the scabbard, a dazzling cold light tore through the sky, bursting with an extremely sharp sword intent. The 10-meter-long, dazzling sword light condensed into the shadow of a divine dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced at Long Yunxiao. Not only that, Qin Yu also released the surging power of the ice attribute. She used the secret skill of the spirit communication technique to join forces with Ji Tianxing. The flickering shadow of the divine dragon, after fusing with the power of the ice attribute, immediately turned into an ice blue dragon. Its power was doubled. Roar! The sacred and majestic ice dragon let out a resounding dragon roar. With the power to destroy everything, it pounced at Long Yunxiao. In the next moment, the huge ice dragon and the five-colored sword light collided fiercely, exploding with an earth-shattering sound. Boom! The five-colored sword light, slashed out by the Nine-Cloud Sword, was shattered on the spot by the ice dragon. It turned into light fragments that filled the sky and quickly dissipated. The power of the ice dragon weakened a little, but it did not dissipate. It ruthlessly slashed at Long Yunxiao. Bang! In the dull, loud sound, Long Yunxiao's figure was drowned by the ice-blue brilliance that filled the sky. The huge ice dragon fiercely slammed into the Emperor platform, creating a huge crack in the black stone floor. Countless pieces of stone splashed out. Seeing this scene, the warriors and commoners in the square were shocked. They exclaimed in disbelief. No one would have thought that Long Yunxiao and Ji Tianxing would be at a disadvantage after exchanging just one blow. And that unknown Ji Tianxing actually had such powerful combat strength. Suddenly, those who were discussing and mocking Ji Tianxing immediately shut their mouths. Everyone put away their contempt. They had to look at Ji Tianxing seriously and reanalyze the result of this challenge. The expressions of the more than 20 princes in the square changed. They revealed complicated expressions. Murong Lingfeng's lips curled into a playful smile. He gently waved his green jade folding fan and said to himself, "This Ji Tianxing is a little interesting. I'm really looking forward to it." Not far away, Duamu Yulong's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He whispered, "No wonder this kid dares to challenge Long Yunxiao. He has some strength. In addition, the other 20 princes also revealed surprised expressions. They stared at the emperor platform with interest. The princes originally thought that Ji Tianxing was no match for Long Yunxiao and would be defeated soon, just like the previous challengers. For countless years, almost every 1 or 2 years, there would be people challenging the princes, wanting to enter the monarch mansion. Those people were called martial arts geniuses in the four-way continent, but they were no match for the princes. They would often be defeated before long. There were even people who were thrown off the emperor platform, losing face in front of tens of thousands of commoners. A moment later, the ice-blue brilliance on the emperor platform that covered the sky dissipated. Under the gaze of 100,000 people, Long Yunxiao's figure appeared again. He stood on the emperor platform, safe and sound, holding the 9-cloud sword in his hand and wearing a set of dark golden armor. This set of dark golden armor covered his entire body, revealing only a pair of eyes. There's also a pair of dark golden wings on his back, which made him look extraordinarily mighty. Moreover, there was a long and sharp black blade on the left arm of the armor. It emitted an extremely sharp aura that seemed to be able to cut the sky. Chapter 520. Long Yunxiao was wearing the God of War armor, and his whole body was tightly protected. No one could tell whether he was injured or not. He stared at Ji Tianxing with cold eyes and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing, I haven't seen you for half a year, and your strength has grown to such an extent. You really surprised this monarch. However, this monarch will not take it lightly and will never give you another chance." As his voice fell, he turned into a golden streamer, wielding the dragon teeth blade in his left arm and the 9-cloud sword in his right hand. He rushed toward Ji Tianxing as fast as an aurora. Dragon sword and thunderblade, chaotic world's mad martial art. Long Yunxiao let out a sonorous roar, and his whole body burst out with a soaring, fighting spirit. Dazzling Zidian thunder light gushed out of the dragon teeth blade and condensed into a huge Zidian blade light. The 9-cloud sword burst out with a bright golden light and turned into a 30-meter-long sacred golden dragon. Long Yunxiao obviously used his ultimate move. He held the thunderbolt in his left hand and manipulated the sacred golden dragon in his right hand. He instantly rushed in front of Ji Tianxing. Kill! Following his furious roar, the divine and berserk golden dragon, which seemed to have descended from the heavens, attacked Ji Tianxing from both sides. Suddenly, the entire monarch stage was shrouded in purple thunder light and dazzling golden light. It became dazzling and chaotic. Ji Tianxing's figure was submerged by the thunderbolt and the golden dragon and immediately fell into a dangerous situation. At the critical moment, he put away the black dragon sword without hesitation and spread out a pair of golden wings in front of him to protect himself. Boom! The thunderbolt and the sacred golden dragon fell from the sky and fiercely blasted Ji Tianxing, causing a loud noise that shook the 9 heavens. He was blasted back hundreds of meters on the spot. His feet sank deep into the black stone floor before he stopped. The ground where he was originally standing had long been blasted by the thunderbolt and the golden dragon, creating a huge crater with a radius of tens of meters and numerous cracks. The incomparably violent energy formed a half-purple and half-golden shockwave that spread out in all directions and fiercely hit the defensive array of the monarch stage. The deafening sound reverberated on the monarch stage for a long time before dissipating. Long Yunxiao stood in the sky, looking down at Ji Tianxing. Seeing that he wasn't injured, he couldn't help narrowing his eyes. Ji Tianxing, you can actually block this monarch's ultimate move. Now, you are indeed qualified to be this monarch's opponent. Ji Tianxing also flapped his golden wings and stepped into the sky, standing 100 steps away from Long Yunxiao. He calmly looked at Long Yunxiao and coldly said, "Half a year ago, that night, I told you that I was going to kill you. So what if he was the emperor? Half a year later, you might not be able to beat me. Today, I will make you recognize yourself and willingly withdraw." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body ignited with a monstrous golden flame. His body merged with the flame, forming a giant golden sword that was more than 10 meters long. Shwa! The huge golden sword carried a sharp power that could destroy everything as it shot towards Long Yunxiao like an aurora. The golden light that burst out from the huge sword formed a huge and incomparably powerful white tiger phantom. The white tiger opened its bloody mouth and stretched out a pair of huge sharp claws. With a violent and murderous momentum, it pounced towards Long Yunxiao. White Tiger's sacred sword. At that moment, the monarch stage was filled with dazzling golden light as sword chi filled the sky. A sacred beast White Tiger appeared out of thin air and let out an earth-shattering roar. Below the monarch stage, the hundreds of thousands of people were shocked and astonished. The strength that Ji Tianxing displayed had refreshed everyone's understanding of him again and again. Even the princes in the sky were staring intently at the emperor platform, their hearts filled with anticipation. Long Yunxiao's eyes flashed with graveness and fear. He also went all out to display his ultimate move to block the attack of the White Tiger's sacred sword. Moonwalk Qing Song, Mysterious Sky, Demon Suppression. He held the dragon teeth saber in his left hand and the nine-cloud sword in his right hand. A pair of golden wings unfolded behind him as his body burst out with five-colored spiritual light. He waved his saber and sword and slashed out an overwhelming amount of saber light and sword shadows, forming a huge net with a radius of hundreds of meters that enveloped the heaven and earth. It enveloped Ji Tianxing on the spot. In the originally clear sky, dark clouds appeared out of nowhere and hundreds of dazzling purple thunderbolts appeared. Kaboom! Hundreds of thunderbolts, carrying the power to destroy everything, fiercely struck down from the sky and blasted towards the White Tiger sacred sword. At this moment, Long Yunxiao was stepping on the sky and holding the thunderbolts in his hand. He controlled the saber light and sword shadows that covered the sky as if he had the power to control the heaven and earth. He was as majestic as a god. Everyone in the square looked up at him with deep reverence and worship in their hearts. As a martial artist, who didn't want to become a martial arts powerhouse like him, who could control the heaven and earth and thunderbolts, and was as majestic and sacred as a god. In the crowd, Jiku, Yin and the Beast King all looked very worried. Their hearts were in their throats as they were nervous for Ji Tianxing. The more than 20 princes in the sky had just witnessed Long Yunxiao's true strength and trump card. They all looked amazed and expectant. At the same time, the saber light, sword net, and thunderbolts all blasted the White Tiger's sacred sword. Boom! Boom! An extremely violent sound exploded on the monarch platform, causing the entire platform to tremble. The loud sound could be clearly heard in the area with a radius of dozens of miles. At that moment, the emperor's stage was filled with saber light, sword shadows, and thunderbolts. It became extremely turbid and chaotic. Everyone around the emperor's stage stared at the situation on the stage with their eyes wide open, looking forward to the result. After 10 breaths of time, the reverberating loud sound gradually dissipated. The saber light, sword shadows, and thunderbolts also finally disappeared. Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao's figures appeared. They were standing on both sides of the emperor's stage, safe and sound. They looked at each other from hundreds of meters away. Long Yunxiao's ultimate move was indeed powerful. It had defeated Ji Tianxing's White Tiger's sacred sword on the spot. However, Ji Tianxing's defense was also very strong. He was not injured by the saber light, sword net, and thunderbolts. He just looked a little pale, his blood and chi were not flowing smoothly, and his true essence was a little shaken. Long Yunxiao frowned and stared at him. After a moment of silence, he said, "If this monarch remembers correctly, you seem to have only mastered the power of metal and fire. Your first move just now actually used the power of ice. Moreover, this monarch's 2 ultimate moves were blocked by you. Ji Tianxing, have you broken through the shackles and reached the sky origin stage?" His tone was dignified and solemn. There was a trace of disbelief in it. Ji Tianxing didn't hide it. He calmly nodded and said, "That's right. Just yesterday." After saying that, his whole body burst out with an incomparably powerful aura. It was as if he could communicate with the heaven and earth and master all things of the five elements. That was the aura that only a Sky Origin Stage powerhouse could have. Long Yunxiao's face suddenly changed. His eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment. After a moment, he came back to his senses and revealed a face full of smiles. In just 2 or 3 months, you actually broke through the shackles and reached the Sky Origin Stage. Very good. Chapter 521. For a genius like Long Yunxiao, he was never afraid of his opponent's strength. Ordinary warriors were not qualified to be his opponent. Only monstrous geniuses were worthy of his attention. The stronger the opponent's talent and strength, the more it could stimulate his fighting spirit. Ji Tianqing stared at him with a confident smile on his face. He said in a sonorous tone, "You see me as a strong opponent, but unfortunately, you are not my opponent. Take this." He suddenly shouted angrily. His body once again ignited with monstrous crimson flames. His body and the flames merged to form a 20-meter-long giant flaming sword. Vermilion Bird Sacred Sword. The powerful, giant, flaming sword streaked across the sky like a meteor and slashed toward Long Yunxiao. The crimson flames on the giant sword condensed into a majestic vermilion bird phantom. The vermilion bird's sacred beast extended its claws and pointed its long and sharp beak. It dived down from the sky, emitting an incomparably sacred and violent aura. At that moment, an unparalleled heat enveloped the entire monarch stage. The air was distorted by the high temperature and rippled like water. The vermilion bird's sacred sword descended from the sky and immediately covered Long Yunxiao's figure. At the critical moment, Long Yunxiao waved his sword with all his might. He slashed out dozens of sword shadows to block the vermilion bird sacred sword's attack. Boom, boom, boom. The vermilion bird's sacred sword collided with the sword shadows in the sky, creating a deafening explosion. The crimson flames spread out and engulfed the entire monarch stage. The dozens of sword shadows were also shattered by the vermilion bird's sacred sword and splashed in all directions. The fragments of the saber light and sword light hit the monarch stage, creating countless pits and cracks on the ground. In the end, Long Yunxiao was still unable to block the vermilion bird's sacred sword's attack. With a muffled bang, he was sent flying by the vermilion bird's sacred sword and slammed into the strange beast statue at the edge of the altar. The tall and majestic black stone statue trembled uncontrollably from the impact, emitting a dull buzzing sound. Long Yunxiao rolled and fell to the ground. The god of war armor he was wearing was damaged. There was a dent in his chest, and it seemed like it was about to break. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and flew into the air in a flash. The vermilion bird's sacred sword had already dissipated, and Ji Tianqing's figure also appeared, standing in the center of the monarch stage. He didn't give Long Yunxiao a chance to counterattack, and used an even more terrifying skill. He slowly raised his left arm, which was as red as fire and seemed to be condensed from lava, and fiercely slapped at Long Yunxiao, who was in midair. Burning Sky Palm. As he roared, a giant flaming palm with a radius of 100 meters suddenly appeared. It carried a violent power that could destroy the world and went straight for Long Yunxiao. The entire monarch stage was filled with flames. The high temperature seemed to have ignited the air. It was as if a scorching sun had appeared out of nowhere in the originally clear sky. Half of the sky was illuminated with a blood-red hue. Long Yunxiao's pupils shrank as he sensed the terrifying power contained within the giant flaming palm. A look of dread appeared on his face. Without a doubt, the power of this flaming palm was enough to threaten his life. However, his aura was locked on by the giant flaming palm, so he couldn't escape or dodge. At this critical moment, he could only use his secret technique with all his strength to resist the attack of the giant flaming palm. Celestial Shield. The true essence in Long Yunxiao's body surged out like a flood and condensed into a 5-colored light wall in front of him. Although this 5-meter-long and 5-meter-wide spiritual light wall looked only 3 fingers thick, It was formed by a secret technique and had a very strong defense. Just as he condensed the celestial shield, the giant flaming palm had already arrived and slapped the celestial shield. Bang! In the deafening sound, the celestial shield only lasted for a moment before it was smashed into pieces and exploded. However, the giant flaming palm slapped Long Yunxiao and wrapped him up, flying into the sky. Hundreds of meters behind him was the monarch stage's defensive array, the five-colored light barrier that covered the sky. Boom! The giant flaming palm wrapped around Long Yunxiao and hit the five-colored light barrier with a destructive force. Suddenly, there was a loud sound that shook the sky. At that moment, the five-colored light barrier that covered the entire monarch stage began to tremble violently, creating layers upon layers of ripples. In the square with a radius of 10 miles, the hundreds of thousands of people and martial artists were dizzy and their ears were buzzing. The majestic and dignified monarch stage was also shaken to the point of shaking nonstop, and cracks appeared on the ground. The giant flaming palm's power was enough to destroy a 10,000-foot mountain, but it was blocked by the defensive array and exploded into a sea of red fire. The endless sea of red fire turned the entire monarch stage into a sea of fire. Long Yunxiao's figure was also drowned in the sea of red fire and couldn't be seen for a long time. Such an earth-shattering commotion caused the 100,000 people present to be inexplicably shocked. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Countless people looked at the monarch stage in astonishment and exclaimed in disbelief, "Oh my God, is this the power of a heaven origin expert? The power of that giant flaming palm is too terrifying." Fortunately, there's a defensive array on the monarch stage. Otherwise, that giant flaming palm would have destroyed everything within a radius of 10 miles. I wonder if the Son of Heaven can block such a powerful, giant flaming palm. We underestimated that Ji Tianxing too much before. This person is so powerful. No wonder he dares to challenge the Son of Heaven. It's over. I'm afraid the outcome has been decided. The Son of Heaven is going to be defeated. No, the Son of Heaven is the heir of the imperial court. How noble is his status and talent. He is the #1 genius of the human race. How can he be defeated? Not only were the people on the square shocked, but even the more than 20 princes in the sky were also surprised. Even the strongest and arrogant Murong Lingfeng and Duanmu Yulong looked at Ji Tianxing in a new light. The joy and anticipation in their eyes grew even stronger. This Ji Tianxing is indeed extraordinary. There is a high chance that he could defeat Long Yunxiao. If Ji Tianxing can really defeat Long Yunxiao, I want to see how Long Yunxiao will deal with this. How will he have the face to choose a heavenly concubine? In a lofty pagoda on the south side of the square, the emperor and the imperial tutor have been watching the battle closely. Their expressions have become a little serious. The imperial tutor sighed faintly. I didn't expect that our race would have a genius who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Son of Heaven. If this person didn't challenge the Son of Heaven, it would be a blessing for our race. It's a pity that this is the first time this person has shown his talent in front of the world. He actually wants to use the Son of Heaven to make a name for himself. The emperor frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "Based on the strength that this person has shown, he is not any weaker than Yunxiao. I'm afraid it will be difficult for Yunxiao to win today." There are a total of 6 chapters today. There will be another 3 chapters at around 14 p.m. Brothers, please wait patiently. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 5:22. After a long time, the boundless sea of fire on the monarch's stage dissipated. Long Yunxiao's figure appeared. He was still standing tall and straight on the stage, but his appearance was somewhat miserable. The golden robe he wore had a few charred holes, and his wide sleeves were rolled up. Moreover, the god of war armor he was wearing was gone. When the heaven-burning palm shattered the celestial barrier, it completely shattered his god of war armor and turned it into metal fragments. Fortunately, the celestial barrier and the god of war armor offset 50% of the power of the heaven-burning palm, so he was not seriously injured. He held the dragon teeth blade in his left hand and the 9-cloud sword in his right hand. He looked at Ji Tianxing expressionlessly. His face was somewhat pale, and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Ji Tianxing stood calmly in the middle of the field, his eyes fixed on Long Yun Shao. His expression was indifferent as he said in a firm tone, "Long Yun Shao, I will definitely win this battle." Long Yun Shao did not refute. He only revealed a smile and said in a playful tone, "That's right. After all, if you don't win, you will die. You have no way out. You must fight to the death." Ji Tianxing frowned, gazing at Long Yun Shao, but didn't say anything. Long Yun Shao was right. He had no way out. He could only win at all costs. If he won, his future would be bright. He would be famous and enter the monarch palace. He would make Long Yun Shao voluntarily withdraw and obtain Madame Yun's approval. If he lost, he would die. Long Yun Shao raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Ji Tianxing, although your heaven-burning palm is very powerful, it is far from enough. If you want to defeat this monarch, you have to take out all your trump cards and burst out all your potential." He shouted in a sonorous tone. His body turned into a colorful stream of light and rushed into the sky. 8 steps of wind and thunder. Long Yun Shao shouted in a low voice. His feet moved in a mysterious way as he shuttled back and forth in the sky. Every time he took a step in the empty sky, an invisible and mysterious power would burst forth from him. After he finished his 8 steps, an array diagram that covered the sky appeared out of nowhere in the empty sky. The array diagram, which was several hundred meters wide, was made up of tens of thousands of black and gray lines, showing the vast sky. Inside the formation diagram, wind and clouds surged, thunder rumbled, and lightning flashed. It displayed the mighty might of the heavens and emitted an incomparably majestic aura. Long Yun Shao stood in the air above the wind and thunder array. His left hand held the dragon teeth blade and pointed at Ji Tianxing. Surge of wind and thunder. Instantly, the wind and clouds in the wind and thunder array diagram surged violently, and thunder surged. More than 10 Zedian thunderbolts, as thick as buckets, burst forth and fiercely struck down. Boom! Zedian lightning descended from the sky, carrying with it an incomparably ferocious and overbearing power as it blasted toward Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing's expression immediately changed, and he immediately retreated 100 meters away. Pung, pung, pung. More than 10 thunderbolts blasted out more than 10 deep scorched pits on the stone floor, and gravel splashed everywhere. Ji Tianxing had just stopped, and he didn't have time to launch a counterattack. However, Long Yun Shao was already prepared. He held the 9-cloud sword in his right hand, pointed at him again, and shouted in a low voice, 10,000 thunderbolts. Suddenly, electric snakes danced wildly in the wind and thunder array diagram, and dazzling thunderbolts burst out. Thousands of thunderbolts enveloped the entire Emperor stage, and like a rain of arrows, they poured down and fiercely struck toward Ji Tianxing. This time, Ji Tianxing had nowhere to hide. He could only open his golden wings and wrap himself up. Pung, 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 pung. Countless thunderbolts fell down like raindrops, continuously bombarding the golden wings, and burst out a series of muffled sounds. Ji Tianxing's entire body was submerged in the thunderbolts. His body was constantly trembling, and he was constantly pushed back. Thousands of thunderbolts bombarded him like a dense rain, and he could only resist, and he was simply unable to counterattack. Thunderbolts were more violent than flames. They represented the divine might of heaven, and no one could block them. At this moment, Long Yun Shao stood proudly in the sky, stepping on the wind and thunder array diagram. He held a saber and sword in his hand, and he controlled the thunderbolts. He was truly divine and mighty to the extreme. He controlled the wind, the clouds, and the thunderbolts, just like the gods and the legends who controlled the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. The 100,000 martial artists in the square found it incredible, and they were full of reverence and worship for him. The more than 20 princes in the sky were also surprised, and their eyes were full of splendor. Long Yun Shao had only been in the emperor residence for 2 years, and he rarely had the chance to fight. It was even more impossible for him to use all his trump cards. Many of the princes didn't know his true strength, and they didn't know his trump cards and ultimate skills. Now, the crowd had witnessed this wonderful peak battle with their own eyes, and only then did they see Long Yunzhao's terrifying means. For a moment, many of the princes who were stronger than him were also a little wary of him. Ji Tianxing kept retreating, and everywhere he passed, he was enveloped by thunderbolts. Charred pits were blasted out on the ground, and debris flew everywhere. Finally, he retreated to the edge of the Emperor's stage, and there was no place for him to retreat. However, the thunderbolts in the sky were still as dense as rain, and they didn't stop. The wind and thunder array diagram could absorb the power of heaven and earth within a radius of 100 miles, and it could continuously produce thunderbolts. Ji Tianxing could withstand it for a while, but he couldn't withstand it forever. At most, he would exhaust his true essence in 15 minutes, and he wouldn't be able to support the power of the golden wings. At that time, he would be turned into charcoal by the thunderbolts in the sky. No, I can't just block it. I have to counterattack. Long Yunzhao relies on the wind and thunder array diagram. As long as the wind and thunder array diagram is still there, he can control the power of heaven and earth's thunderbolts. Only by destroying the wind and thunder array diagram can I break his ultimate skill. Ji Tianxing thought to himself, and he instantly made up his mind. He leaned against the edge of the Emperor's stage and used the golden wings to protect himself. He urged the sword embryo in his abdomen to fly out of his body. Sword of Judgment. The sword embryo transformed into a huge golden sword that was 20 meters long. It lit up with a dazzling golden light, and a pair of golden light wings condensed. Swish! The golden sacred sword contained an indestructible and unstoppable power. Under the control of Ji Tianxing, the golden sacred sword penetrated the blockade of the thunderbolts in the sky and brazenly attacked the wind and thunder array diagram in the sky. Boom! In the deafening loud noise, the sword of judgment ruthlessly stabbed the wind and thunder array diagram, and purple thunderbolts that covered the sky burst out. The wind and thunder array diagram wasn't a physical object, but a phantom array formed by Long Yunzhao's array Dao. The Sword of Judgment was a huge sword that contained 30% of Ji Tianxing's power, and its power was terrifyingly powerful. The Sword of Judgment immediately pierced a huge hole in the wind and thunder array diagram, which was hundreds of meters in radius, and shattered into black clouds and thunderbolts. The wind and thunder array diagram collapsed and shattered. Chapter 523. Long Yunzhao did not have the protection of the divine war armor. When he was stabbed by the golden sacred sword, he spat out a mouthful of blood and was severely injured. He crashed into the five-colored light barrier. His body was trembling from the impact, and his consciousness was a little blurry. He fell from the sky powerlessly. A huge wound appeared on his chest, and blood kept spilling out. At this time, the golden sacred sword flew high into the sky, and it emitted a dazzling golden light. Under Ji Tianxing's control, the golden sacred sword was like a whirlpool, crazily swallowing the spiritual energy from all directions. Within a radius of 10 miles, all the spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered and turned into strands of five-colored spiritual light, surging into the golden sacred sword. Suddenly, the golden sacred sword grew 10 meters in size, and its power increased by 50%. The sword intended emitted was even more violent and fierce. Ji Tianxing stood proudly on the monarch stage, looking up at the golden sacred sword in the sky. He let out a powerful and domineering roar. Sword come! Suddenly, the golden sacred sword suspended in the sky locked onto Long Yunzhao's aura. It carried an aura that could suppress everything and slam down from the sky. Slash! The golden sacred sword carried a golden flame tail. It was faster than lightning, and it instantly hit Long Yunzhao. Long Yunzhao was already injured by the golden sacred sword. He fell from the sky, and before he could block or dodge, his body was engulfed by the golden flame. Boom! In an earth-shattering explosion, The golden sacred sword wrapped around Long Yunxiao and slammed into the ground of the monarch stage. The entire monarch stage shook violently, and it trembled continuously for dozens of times. A huge crater with a radius of dozens of meters was formed on the hard rock ground, and gravel flew everywhere. The dazzling golden light mixed with the violent air waves, forming a golden shockwave. It spread out in all directions and crashed into the five-colored light barrier. The five-colored light barrier kept shaking, and layers of ripples appeared. It was even more dazzling and colorful. The golden light covered the sky, and it filled hundreds of meters of space. It drowned the entire monarch stage, and it didn't dissipate for a long time. The loud explosion was still echoing in the sky, and it gradually faded away. After about 100 breaths of time, the monarch stage calmed down, and the vision became clear again. Ji Tianxing stood on the monarch stage, his body as straight as a sword. However, his countenance was slightly pale, and the white robe he wore had already been charred black. It was tattered, and he seemed to be in a sorry state. Moreover, he had repeatedly used his ultimate skills and trump cards. More than half of his true essence had been consumed. He only had about 30% left. 100 meters in front of him, there was a huge crater in the ground, with cracks extending all around it. At the bottom of the deep pit, Long Yunxiao was lying in the ruins covered in blood. He was slowly struggling to get up. There were several large wounds on his left shoulder, chest, and back. The wound was badly mangled and dark red blood gushed out ceaselessly. It was even to the extent that the bones within could be faintly seen. Even though he was severely injured, he did not lose consciousness and remained conscious. He broke free from the rubble and slowly stood up. He condensed a pair of wings with his true essence and flew out of the huge pit. Shua! Long Yunxiao landed on the edge of the crater and staggered a few steps before he could steady himself. He held the dragon teeth blade and the nine-cloud sword in his hands. His body was slightly bent as he stood on the monarch stage. At this point, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight and could not fight anymore. There was no doubt that Long Yunxiao had been defeated. The commoners in the square were all dumbfounded when they saw Long Yunxiao's severely injured appearance. When the crowd came to their senses, they immediately burst into discussions and exclamations. "This is unbelievable. Ji Tianxing actually has such terrifying strength. There's actually such a marvelous swordsmanship in this world. Today, I have learned something new. It's over. The Son of Heaven is severely injured. He has already lost. The outcome has been decided. I never thought that the result would be so unbelievable. A nameless boy can actually defeat the #1 genius of the human race. The human race is really full of geniuses. That guy called Ji Tianxing not only passed the Monarch Mansion's assessment, but also obtained the title of the #1 genius of the human race. He is simply too monstrous. This is too shocking. I haven't seen such a thrilling and wonderful battle for more than 10 years. From today onwards, Ji Tianxing's name will spread throughout Middle Ground and become famous throughout the world. The human race has one more top genius. The Monarch Mansion will also have a new noble prince. The more than 20 princes in the sky were also shocked and in disbelief. That guy, Ji Tianxing, is actually able to display such a miraculous sword technique? This person is a formidable opponent. When he enters the Monarch Mansion, we must be careful of him. Based on Ji Tianxing's performance just now, in time, he will definitely become an influential figure in the Monarch Mansion. Murong Lingfeng and Duanmu Yulong looked at each other across the sky and smiled meaningfully. They exchanged a few words through their spiritual senses. Ji Tianxing has actually defeated Long Yunxiao. Hee. I'm afraid that there will be a more exciting show later. This is good news for us. When Ji Tianxing enters the Monarch Mansion, we will make another plan. In the pagoda to the south of the square, the Monarch Emperor frowned and looked a little serious. The imperial tutor stroked his white beard and shook his head with a sigh. Sigh, as the Monarch Emperor expected, Ji Tianxing has really defeated the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven's reputation has been damaged, and he has been seriously injured. How will he choose his heavenly concubine later? The monarch emperor was silent for a moment, and then ordered in a deep voice, "Imperial tutor, pass down the order to carefully investigate that boy called Ji Tianxing. This boy's talent and strength have surpassed Yin Xiao. I want to see what kind of background he has." On the monarch stage, Ji Tianxing and Long Yin Xiao looked at each other and ignored the reactions and discussions of the crowd. Long Yin Xiao endured his injuries and tried his best to straighten his body. He stared at Ji Tianxing. His expression was very calm. There was no anger or unwillingness after being defeated. Instead, there was a trace of relief in his eyes. He. Ji Tianxing, you are very good. He chuckled. His voice was a little hoarse and his tone was a little low. Today's battle is the most satisfying battle I've ever had in my life. I have to admit that I have lost. You are indeed qualified to stand by her side. You are worthy of her trust and trust. Congratulations, you are about to become the 56th emperor. I will also fulfill my promise and not pester her anymore. After saying that, Long Yin Xiao raised his head and chuckled a few times. He turned around and was about to leave. However, there was a deep sadness and desolation hidden in that pretentious and carefree chuckle. Wait! At this moment, Ji Tianxing shouted softly. Long Yin Xiao stopped stumbling and did not turn around. With his back facing him, he asked in a deep voice, "You have already won. What else do you have to say?" Ji Tianxing stared at him with a complicated expression. He had used all his trump cards and strength to finally defeat Long Yin Xiao in front of everyone and obtain victory. From now on, he would be the #1 genius of the human race whose name would spread throughout the world. He would also be recognized by the Cloud Spirit Palace and would be able to stay with Yun Yao forever. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion, and he should be overjoyed and excited. However, his expression was as calm as usual, without the slightest hint of joy. He stared at Long Yin Xiao's back and was silent for a moment before asking, "You sacrificed so much for her, but in the end, you helped me. Was it worth it?" Long Yin Xiao's body trembled slightly, but he immediately covered it up. His voice was calm and cold as he said, "I don't understand what you're talking about." After saying that, he walked away without looking back. He condensed a pair of wings with his true essence and flew down the Emperor platform. Chapter 524. With Long Yin Xiao's departure, the challenge ended. Divine Master He Yu descended from the sky and landed on the Emperor's stage. He looked at Ji Tianxing and nodded his head slightly. Then, he announced the result with a loud voice. "I announce the end of the challenge. Ji Tianxing has passed the test. From today onwards, he will be the 56th prince of the Emperor's residence." Divine Master He Yu's voice spread across a radius of 10 miles. Over 100,000 people could hear him clearly. After announcing the result, Divine Master He Yu looked at Ji Tianxing again and said seriously, "Ji Tianxing, from today onwards, you will be the prince of the Emperor's residence. A month ago, your crime of trespassing into the Emperor's residence will be removed. I will not pursue it any further. From today onwards, your words and actions will represent the Emperor's residence. You must remember that your words and actions will not bring down the prestige of the Emperor's residence. Do not damage the dignity of the Emperor's residence." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bowed. He said respectfully, "I will remember Divine Master's teachings." Divine Master He Yu nodded his head and took out a diamond-shaped purple crystal token. He flicked his finger and threw it to Ji Tianxing. "Within a month, you can report to the Emperor's residence at any time after you have settled your affairs. At that time, I will arrange the cave residence and spiritual vein for you." Ji Tianxing accepted the purple crystal token and thanked Divine Master He Yu again. Divine Master He Yu did not say anything else. He slowly lifted his right foot and stomped on the ground. Suddenly, a formless, majestic energy surged into the ground and spread out, covering the entire Emperor stage. Ji Tianxing immediately saw that the devastated ground under his feet was quickly changing. Under the restoration of the formless energy, the densely packed pits were smoothed out. Countless cracks and ravines of different sizes were quickly healed. After a few breaths, the ground of the Emperor's stage was restored to its original state. It was intact as if nothing had happened. After doing all this, Divine Master He Yu waved his sleeve and removed the defensive array that covered the Emperor's stage. Then, he flew into the sky and transformed into a pair of huge black wings of light, flying towards the forest of divine monuments. Ji Tianxing watched as God-teacher He Yu disappeared into the horizon. He then turned around and left the monarch stage, flying back to the crowd below the stage. Below the Emperor's stage, countless martial artists and commoners were still immersed in great shock, discussing endlessly. Within a radius of 10 miles, there was a boiling cauldron of voices. The rolling waves of voices were like the eruption of a mountain torrent, deafening the ears. In the crowd, Ji Ku, Yin and the Beast King were all filled with excitement and couldn't help but cheer. After all, the Beast King was a Heaven Yuan cultivator and a senior. Naturally, he would not cheer. However, his face was filled with a gratified smile as he stroked his beard and nodded in admiration. Great! Tianxing, this kid, had finally made a name for himself, his name shaking the central state. In a moment, this old man will write a letter to Chu Tianxing. If that old man hears the news, he will be overjoyed. Yin was so excited that his little face flushed red. His eyes sparkled with a bright light. That's great. Senior brother Tianxing has finally won. He will be reunited with senior sister very soon. Jiku was the most gratified and excited. She was so happy that she cried. She couldn't help but say, I knew that brother Tianxing would definitely win. No matter what danger there is, no matter how strong the opponent is, he will not be defeated. She knew that Ji Tianxing could only win and not lose. Otherwise, he would lose everything and be executed by the monarch mansion. Today, Ji Tianxing had finally defeated Long Yunxiao and won. This was the change from hell to heaven. How could she not be happy for Ji Tianxing? At this moment, Ji Tianxing flew back to the three of them and landed in front of Ji Ku. Ji Ku immediately said excitedly, Brother Tianxing, you finally won. That's great. Are you hurt? Do you want to meditate? Ji Tianxing smiled and shook his head. He said gently, I'm fine. You don't have to worry. I defeated Tianzi and passed the test. You should be happy. Why are you crying? As he spoke, he reached out to help Ji Ku wipe away the tears from the corner of her eyes. Yin hurriedly came over and said with a smile, Senior brother Tianxing, junior sister Ji Ku is so happy that she's crying. Senior brother, you don't know. When you were fighting with Tianzi on the stage just now, junior sister was so nervous that she almost suffocated. She had been praying for you. Jiku suddenly felt a little embarrassed. She pretended to be angry and glared at Yin Ji Tianxing patted Yin shoulder and asked with a smile. Then when senior brother challenged Tianzi on the stage, weren't you nervous? Yin shook her head and said with a smile, I wasn't worried because I know that senior brother is the most powerful. I have confidence in you. Back then, even the unparalleled demon emperor who broke the seal was seriously injured by you and almost killed on the spot. Although Tianzi is the #1 genius of the human race, he's far from being as abnormal as you. Senior brother. Abnormal? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and reached out to knock her little head. Is there anyone who praises people like you? The Beast King squeezed over with a smile and said with relief, Tianxing, now that you've defeated Tianzi, you're the #1 genius of the human race. With your monstrous talent, after entering the Monarch Mansion, you'll definitely grow rapidly and soon become a famous figure in the Tianxin continent. If your master learns of this good news, he'll be so happy that he'll drink 300 cups of wine and get drunk. Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and nodded with a smile. Yes, not only my master, but old Master Xiang will also be overjoyed. He'll definitely get drunk. The four of them discussed happily and laughed heartily from time to time. They were all in a good mood. In a palace on the south side of the square, a burly man in a black robe and a cloak was standing by the window of a room, staring at the square outside. The large cloak covered his head and face, making it difficult to see his appearance. However, this person was tall and straight, exuding a noble and dignified aura. It was obvious that his identity was extraordinary. Oomph. Long Yun Xiao, that trash, actually lost to a nameless kid in front of everyone. He's really a disgrace to the imperial court. I really don't know why the old man was so blind to make that trash Long Yun Xiao the heir. The man in the black robe cursed in a low voice. His tone was filled with hatred. He looked below the monarch stage and stared at Ji Tianxing in the crowd. He whispered in a cold voice, "Gao Yi, that useless trash. Not only did he mess things up, he even let Ji Tianxing live until now. This little bastard ruined my plan. He's unforgivable and deserves to die. I was just about to go to the Tianshan region to find you, but I didn't expect you to come to the central state and deliver yourself to me. Oomph. So what if you enter the monarch mansion? You dare to ruin my plan and block my path. I'll make sure you die without a burial place." The man in the black robe snorted coldly and turned to leave with a cold, murderous intent. Chapter 525. Although the battle between Ji Tianxing and the Son of Heaven had already ended, but the hundreds of thousands of people and martial artists in the square still refused to leave and were still looking forward to it. After all, today was not only the day when Ji Tianxing challenged the Son of Heaven, but it was also the day when the Son of Heaven chose his heavenly concubine. Countless people wanted to see which woman could get the Son of Heaven's favor and become the noble heavenly concubine. However, a quarter of an hour passed quickly. The people were anxiously waiting, but there was still no movement on the Emperor's stage. No one from the imperial court went up the stage. Only the red lanterns and red silk brocade danced in the wind. The people were a little anxious and began to whisper to each other. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, Yin and the Beast King were also waiting patiently in the square. Everyone wanted to know who Long Yun Xiao would choose as his heavenly concubine. Would he go back on his word and continue to pester Yin Yao? Or would he insist on choosing Yun Yao as his heavenly concubine? Ji Tianxing was not in a hurry to return to the Qingfeng courtyard to adjust his breathing. He wanted to see the final result so that he could be completely at ease. However, the Son of Heaven did not appear for a long time, and the people from the imperial court were also nowhere to be seen. Yin was a little anxious and couldn't help but ask Ji Tianxing, "Senior brother Tianxing, how badly did you beat the Son of Heaven?" Ji Tianxing looked at him in confusion. "What's wrong?" Yin frowned and muttered, "He hasn't appeared yet. Could it be that he is seriously injured and unconscious?" Ji Tianxing was startled for a moment and shook his head with a chuckle. With his injuries, he definitely won't. Yin looked up at the empty Emperor's stage and asked, "Then why hasn't he come out yet? We are still waiting for the result. What if he shamelessly refuses to admit it and chooses senior sister as his heavenly concubine in front of everyone?" Ji Tianxing patted Yin Er's head and said with a smile, "Don't worry, he won't. He is the dignified Son of Heaven. How can he go back on his word?" As soon as his voice fell, there was a commotion in the crowd in the square, and there was a hubbub of exclamations and discussion. A team of guards in silver armor was protecting two majestic ceremonial officials of the imperial court. They passed through the crowd on the square and walked toward the imperial stage. It wasn't long before the two officials of the imperial court ascended the imperial throne, and they announced a piece of news under the gazes of everyone present. By the order of the imperial court, His Majesty the Emperor is injured today, so it is inconvenient for him to hold a grand ceremony. The date of the selection of the heavenly consort will be postponed. When the ceremonial officer announced the order, many of the commoners began to discuss among themselves, their faces filled with disappointment. However, everyone understood that the Son of Heaven had a great battle with Ji Tianxing and suffered such terrible injuries. Naturally, it was not suitable for him to hold any more ceremonies. Even if the imperial court wanted to delay the selection of the heavenly consort, it was reasonable. No one was surprised. After announcing the imperial court's decree, the ceremonial officer left the emperor's stage. The princes in the sky above the monarch stage also looked disappointed and flew away silently. The commoners in the square also gradually dispersed in all directions and began to leave the square. Ji Tianxing, Yin and the others were naturally filled with disappointment as they followed the crowd out of the square. On the south side of the square, in a splendid palace, dozens of palace maids all maintained solemn postures as they stood respectfully around the main hall. At the entrance of the main hall, there were a few guards in golden armor who stood quietly. In the spacious and bright main hall, there were 3 beautiful women who were waiting quietly. These 3 beauties were all stunning in the world. Their figures and appearances were all top-notch, but their temperaments each had their own merits. In the middle of them was a woman in a white dress. Her temperament was as cold as frost, and her eyes were as indifferent as autumn water. She was Yun Yao. She just stood there quietly, and there was a kind of celestial aura around her that made her look down on the world. The beauty in green, standing on her left, was Ensuin from the Yong and region's Qinquan sect. She was the same as Yun Yao, wearing a simple green dress. She didn't put on any makeup, nor did she wear any jewelry. But even so, she had an innate noble and demure temperament. Even if she just stood there with an indifferent expression, she was like an orchid in an empty valley, quiet and leisurely, noble and elegant. Of course, compared to Yun Yao, Ensuin's temperament was slightly different. She had a bit more earthly aura. Yun Yao was a cold fairy from the 9 heavens, while Ensuin was a peerless beauty in the world. As for the third beauty, her name was Lan Huixin. Not only was she pure and beautiful, she had also specially dressed up. She wore an extremely gorgeous floor-length dress and dazzling accessories. Even if she was standing in the main hall waiting, she tried her best to maintain a perfect appearance and a dignified posture. She would not do anything that would affect her image. However, her eyes that seemed as gentle as water on the surface hid a deep sense of urgency and anticipation. Her eyes kept inadvertently glancing at the entrance of the main hall. Obviously, she was anxious and puzzled. Why hadn't the emperor sent someone to announce the decree? Why hadn't the ceremony been held yet? She had prepared and practiced for a few months for this day. Finally, the 2 ceremonial officials arrived late and stepped into the main hall with steady steps. The 2 of them walked to the front of the main hall and looked at the 3 beauties calmly. They said in a dignified tone, "3 beauties, His Majesty the Emperor is injured today and is recuperating in the palace. It is inconvenient to hold the ceremony. The imperial court has ordered that the selection of the heavenly consort will be temporarily postponed. The specific time is still to be discussed. During this time, we ask the 3 beauties to move to the Purple Thunder Palace and stay in His Majesty the Emperor's palace for the time being. Wait patiently." After hearing the ceremonial official's announcement, the 3 beauties' expressions changed slightly and revealed complicated expressions. When Yun Yao heard this, she guessed the result of the battle between Ji Tianxing and the emperor. Her eyes flashed with relief, and she secretly sighed in relief. Ensuin's expression seemed calm, but a hint of worry flashed in her eyes. A few years ago, she was fortunate enough to enter the imperial court with her father and participate in the emperor's coming-of-age ceremony. It was also at that banquet that she first met Long Yunxiao. At that time, she had just experienced her first awakening of love and had never been moved by any man. Although there were many celebrities and noble families at the banquet that day, there were many elegant young masters and young masters of noble families. However, when Ensuin saw Long Yunxiao for the first time, she was attracted by his cold and dignified eyes that hid a sense of loneliness. From that day onwards, Long Yunxiao entered her heart and had firmly occupied her heart all these years. Originally, she was about to see Long Yunxiao, whom she had been separated from for a long time. However, she didn't expect Long Yunxiao to be seriously injured and unable to choose a heavenly consort. Her heart was filled with worry and anxiety. She only wanted to get to Long Yunxiao's side as soon as possible and see how his injuries were and whether they were critical. Lan Huixin, who was dressed to the nines, revealed a look of disappointment. In order to perform well today and win the emperor's heart, she had carefully prepared for a few months. It could be said that she had put in a lot of effort. However, in the end, it was all in vain. How could she not be depressed? Chapter 5:26. Not long after, the three beauties left the main hall, and Suin and Lan Huaixin followed the ceremonial officials and palace maids to the emperor's temporary residence. Yun Yao left alone. She didn't go to the Purple Thunder Palace, but went straight to the Clear Wind Courtyard in the Fish Dragon Alley. She knew that Long Yunxiao was strong and had many trump cards. Moreover, he had mastered many secret techniques and was very powerful. Even if Ji Tianxing could defeat Long Yunxiao and severely injure him, he would also be injured. Yin Yao was worried and wanted to go to the Clear Wind Courtyard to visit Ji Tianxing and see how he was doing. The streets outside the palace were bustling with people. Countless people had just left the plaza and were walking in groups of 3 to 5 on streets. They were discussing the previous battle as they walked. Many people were still immersed in the wonderful and earth-shattering battle. They couldn't help but exclaim loudly when the discussion reached a certain point. Yin Yao passed through the streets and rushed to the Fish Dragon Alley without leaving a trace. She heard countless people's discussions along the way and combined their words together to understand the course of the battle. When she heard that Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao had fought with all their strength and used all their trump cards, her mood also fluctuated. At this moment, she only wanted to reach the Clear Wind Courtyard as soon as possible. However, just as she passed through a small alley and was about to enter another street, she was stopped by a woman in a black dress. The woman in black was tall and thin. Her appearance was ordinary, but she faintly exuded the aura of a powerhouse. Yin Yao was no stranger to her. She recognized her at a glance. This was the personal bodyguard of her mother, Bailey Ningsu, Yin Luo. Yin Luo's surname wasn't Yun. She was only a servant of a Yun family. It was only because she was smart and vigilant in her actions and was loyal to the Yun family. She once saved her mother at the cost of being seriously injured and on the verge of death that she was recognized and valued by the Yun family. Since then, she was given the surname Yun by the Yun family and became her mother's trusted bodyguard. Yun Luo stopped in front of Yun Yao and bowed. "Young miss, please wait." Yun Yao stopped and looked at her with a slight frown. "Why are you stopping me?" Yun Luo looked at the street behind her vigilantly and pulled Yun Yao into an alley. She stretched out her hand and shot out a 5-colored spiritual light, setting up a soundproof array formation to protect herself and Yun Yao. Then, she said seriously, "Eldest young miss, this subordinate is here on Madam's orders to pass on a few words to you." "Mother ordered you to pass on a message?" Yin Yao frowned and thought for a moment. Then, she said calmly, "Then tell me." Yin Luo also did not beat around the bush and said straightforwardly, "Eldest miss, just now, Ji Tianxing and the Son of Heaven had a decisive battle on the monarch stage." Madam secretly watched the entire process. The madam admitted that she had indeed misjudged him. She did not expect Ji Tianxing to have such hidden strength and means. Ji Tianxing was actually able to defeat the Son of Heaven and successfully pass the Monarch Mansion's examination. This made her feel very surprised. Yin Yao nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Mother does not understand Tianxing. It is normal for her to misjudge him. However, she should have seen Tianxing's aptitude and potential now." Yin Luo did not respond. She did not comment on this and continued, "Madam said that Ji Tianxing defeated the Son of Heaven after all. Today, hundreds of thousands of people witnessed it with their own eyes. This matter has already caused a sensation in Central State City. It will definitely spread quickly. Now that Ji Tianxing has become famous in this battle, he is in the limelight. He will definitely become an influential figure in Central State City. He will definitely attract the attention of countless experts and powers. He is at the heart of the struggle, and the Son of Heaven has yet to choose his heavenly concubine. Eldest miss, you are still one of the candidates. If eldest miss goes to Ji Tianxing at this time, some people will definitely find out about this. It will also attract criticism from others, bringing unnecessary trouble to you and Ji Tianxing. Eldest miss, please reconsider." After Yin Luo finished relaying Bailey Ningsu's words, he did not say anything else. He silently waited for Yun Yao to make her decision. Yun Yao frowned as she pondered with a solemn expression. "Mother's words are reasonable. Today, Tianqing defeated Long Yunxiao on the stage and became famous. He has already become a proud son of heaven that everyone looks at. If I go to Clear Wind Courtyard to look for him now, it will be a bit rash. When Tianqing fought with Long Yunxiao, the people from the other two families will definitely come to watch. They will definitely keep an eye on Tianqing. If they find out that I went to look for Tianqing, it will give them an opportunity. They will definitely use this opportunity to slander and deal with Cloud Soul Palace. Tianqing has just come to Central State and has not established himself yet. It is not suitable for him to be involved in the grievances of the three great families. Thinking of this, Yin Yao dispelled her previous thoughts. She suppressed the worry in her heart and decided not to visit Tianqing for now. Once the consort selection was over, she would no longer be a heavenly consort candidate, and it would be convenient for her to move. In any case, Tianqing would enter the Monarch Palace soon. At that time, she and Tianqing would both be in the Monarch Palace, and there would be plenty of opportunities to meet. In short, she and Tianqing would have a long time in the future. There was no need to rush. At this time, Yin Luo saw that she had pondered for a long time and seemed to have made up her mind. He said, "Eldest miss, please come with me to see madam." Yin Yao did not say anything and nodded in agreement. She followed Yin Luo out of the alley and rushed toward the palace in the city. About an hour later, the two of them passed through a quiet street and entered a house at the end of the street. This fresh and elegant house looked calm and ordinary on the surface, but it was protected by a powerful formation and many powerhouses and guards were hidden. Yin Luo brought Yun Yao into a quiet and elegant room. He respectfully guarded the door and made a gesture of invitation. Yin Yao stepped into the room and saw her mother, Bailey Ningsu, sitting at the table and quietly pondering. There was a teacup and an incense burner on the table, and the air was filled with a calming fragrance. Yin Yao walked into the room and bowed slightly. She calmly called out, "Mother." Only then did Bailey Ningsu come back to her senses. She turned to look at Yin Yao and nodded slightly. "Yao Yao, come and sit down." Yin Yao walked to the table and sat down. Bailey Ningsu picked up the teapot and poured her a cup of spirit tea. Then Bailey Ningsu slowly said, "Yao Yao, Tianqing defeated the emperor on the monarch stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. You must be very happy right now, right?" Yin Yao elegantly picked up the teacup and drank the tea. She remained silent and did not answer. Sigh. Bailey Ningsu sighed. She had a worried look on her face, and her expression was solemn. "Mother, why are you so worried?" Yin Yao looked at Bailey Ningsu and asked with concern. Bailey Ningsu looked deeply at her and said in a solemn tone, "Yao Yao, the emperor was defeated in front of everyone today and was seriously injured. It affected the selection of the heavenly concubine." Chapter 5:27. Yin Yao naturally understood Bailey Ningsu's meaning and guessed what her mother was worried about. However, she remained silent, lowering her head to drink tea. Bailey Ningsu furrowed her brows and said in a low voice, "In recent years, our Yun family has gradually declined, while the other two families have become increasingly prosperous, producing experts in large numbers. The three families have always been a tripartite balance of power. Even if they compete in secret, they won't join hands. I don't know when it started, but the Duanmu and Murong families have secretly joined hands to deal with our Yun family. In recent years, the two families have become increasingly arrogant and despotic. Their movements have become more frequent, and all kinds of schemes have emerged. If it weren't for the Son of Heaven secretly supporting our Yun family, how could we have resisted the two family schemes?" Speaking up to here, a cold glint flashed in her eyes, and her tone carried a trace of hatred. Those two families have actually joined hands and acted so arrogantly and scrupulously dealing with our Yun family. There must be someone supporting and instigating them from behind. Yin Yao's mind was sharp, and she immediately understood Bailey Ningsu's meaning. She furrowed her brows and said in a cold voice, "How many people in the entire central province have the qualifications and strength to control the two families? The person supporting the two families to deal with our Yun family must have an extraordinary status, and most likely comes from the imperial court. However, The imperial court has many heirs, so I wonder who the person behind the scenes is? Bailey Ningsu nodded in agreement. That's right. Mother has always suspected that the power behind the two families is most likely a descendant of the imperial court. However, we can't make wild guesses without concrete evidence. After a moment of silence, she solemnly exhorted, Yao Yao, you've just entered the monarch manor not long ago and have yet to gain a firm foothold. The two families' heirs are deeply rooted in the monarch manor. You must remember to be careful in the monarch manor and do your best to avoid conflict with the two families. As for Ji Tianxing, he'll definitely be targeted by the two families and be watched by many powers in secret. After Ji Tianxing enters the monarch manor, you must try not to get too close with him, so as to avoid being caught by those with ulterior motives. It won't be long before your father comes out of seclusion. When your father comes out of seclusion, we will discuss this matter and find a countermeasure. Hearing this, Yin Yao frowned and asked Bailey Ningsu, Mother, didn't you say that you wouldn't stop us if Tianxing joined the monarch mansion? Now that I'm still a candidate for heavenly consort, I can temporarily not interact too much with Tianxing. However, once the emperor's concubine selection is over, I will be free. I am willing to associate with Tianxing. That is my freedom. How can I allow others to criticize me? Bailey Ningsu looked at Yin Yao helplessly and nodded. That's right, Mother did say that. However, Yao Yao, you must understand that the Monarch Palace is the best martial arts academy in the entire continent. That was a holy land for martial artists to cultivate, not a place for romance. If you are outside the Monarch Mansion, no matter how the two of you interact, as long as you don't cross the lightning pool, Mother will not interfere or obstruct you. But in the Monarch Mansion, you must concentrate on cultivating and studying martial arts diligently. You must strive to increase your strength. This is the right path and will not be a waste of your great talent. In this world of martial arts where heroes rise and powerhouses stand in great numbers, only those with enough strength can have a foothold in this world and protect their loved ones and families. Yao Yao, even if Mother doesn't tell you these principles, you should understand them. Yin Yao lowered her head. After a moment of silence, she calmly replied, Yao Yao understands. Mother, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Bailey Ningsu knew Yin Yao's temperament the best. Seeing that she didn't answer directly, she knew that her words were perfunctory. However, she had already said what she needed to say. Since Yin Yao didn't want to listen to her, there was nothing she could do. Sigh. Bailey Ningsu sighed helplessly and no longer talked about this matter. She then asked Yin Yao about some things in the Monarch Mansion and gave Yin Yao some advice. After a quarter of an hour, Yin Yao finished drinking the spiritual tea in her cup. She bowed and bid farewell to Bailey Ningsu and returned to the Monarch Mansion. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and the others left the square in the city and returned to the cool breeze courtyard. After returning to the clear jade courtyard, Ji Tianxing entered a secret room in his room and began to circulate his martial arts to regulate his breathing and restore his vitality. Although he had defeated Long Yunxiao and severely injured him, he was still safe and sound. But in fact, Long Yunxiao's strength and methods were very powerful. He was far stronger than an ordinary second-level Sky Origin Stage expert. If the Tianjin sect master, Gao Yi, hadn't died, he wouldn't have been able to withstand 3 moves from Long Yunxiao and would have been killed on the spot. In order to defeat Long Yunxiao, Ji Tianxing had used all his strength and used all his trump cards and secret techniques. His true origin stage was almost exhausted. Now that his true origin stage was exhausted and his strength was weak, he needed to recuperate for a few days to recover. In the dimly lit secret room, the spiritual energy gathering array was activated. It quickly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from all directions and condensed it into strands of dazzling multicolored light in the secret room. Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged in the middle of the array, silently circulating the Sword Heart Dao's incantation. His body was like a vortex, crazily absorbing the spiritual energy around him. Just last night, with the help of Qian Yu and the help of the Beast King's spirit communication heaven art, he had successfully broken through the shackles and reached the Sky Origin stage. Now, he had officially entered the sky origin stage. His strength in martial arts realm had also improved and changed by leaps and bounds. In the future, not only would he have to cultivate the 8th level of the Sword Heart Tao, but he would also have to gradually control the power of the 5 elements to quickly increase his strength. The secret chamber was silent, and time passed quietly. Unknowingly, 3 days passed in a flash. Tianxing cultivated for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, he had recovered his true essence, and his strength had returned to its peak state. Moreover, some of the minor injuries in his body had also been healed by the powerful self-healing ability of the Kenshin bloodline. Early in the morning, Tianxing finished his cultivation and walked out of the secret room. Not long after he returned to his room, the Beast King entered Clear Jade Garden and came to his door. "Tianxing, have you come out of seclusion? This old man has received many invitations and visiting cards in the past 2 days. I've come to deliver them to you." The Beast King stood outside the door and shouted with a smile. Tianxing quickly opened the door and welcomed the Beast King into the room. He asked curiously, "Senior, what invitations and visiting cards? I don't have any relatives or friends in Central State City. Who would send these things to me?" The Beast King immediately revealed a smile and explained, "After you defeated the Son of Heaven, you became famous and became a noble and unparalleled emperor. Now that you are a famous figure in Central State City, the various powerful families and organizations in the city naturally want to form a good relationship with you." Chapter 528. Tianxing looked at the several dozen invitations and visiting cards on the table and couldn't help but knit his brows. Every invitation and visiting card was extremely luxurious and exquisite. It was clear that only powerful factions and families had the qualifications to use them. He casually flipped through a few invitations and visiting cards and found that the contents were mostly the same. They all had the same goal. Those factions and families in Central State City either sent people to the Cool Breeze courtyard to deliver visiting cards, as well as a valuable meeting gift, or they sent people to deliver invitations, inviting him to attend a banquet. These families and factions all wanted to rope him in and establish a good relationship with him. Tianxing was not interested in this at all. Towards the various large factions and families in Central State City, he didn't have too much of an understanding. He casually flipped through a few visiting cards and invitations, but he found them to be uninteresting. He didn't feel like giving them another look. Seeing his reaction, the Beast King hurriedly reminded, "Tianxing, this old man knows that you are infatuated with martial arts cultivation and don't want to pay attention to these mundane matters. However, this old man must remind you that in this large Central State City, the network of relationships between factions is extremely complicated. As long as it is a family or faction with a bit of background and strength, they will move around and interact with each other, using this to expand their own influence. Tianxing, if you want to truly stand firm in Central State City, you will need a few backers and allies. How about this? This old man will give you a detailed introduction to Central State City, as well as what powerful families and factions there are. Then, you can choose a few that you are willing to make friends with, and this old man will help you take care of them." The Beast King was extremely enthusiastic, introducing Tianxing to Central State's large families and factions. However, Tianxing waved his hand, rejecting the Beast King's good intentions. "Senior, I know that you have good intentions, and I am very grateful. However, I will not interact with those families and factions, nor will I be recruited by them. Eagles can only soar in the sky if they spread their wings and fly alone. Only sparrows can form flocks. I ask Senior to help me reject those invitations and visiting cards." When the Beast King heard his words, he revealed a faint smile as he nodded and said, "Eagles soar high in the sky. Sparrows flock together. These words are truly correct. Good. Since you've made up your mind, this old man will help you deal with it." The Beast King put away the dozens of invitations and visiting cards and left Clear Jade Garden. Next, he had to send people to reply to the visiting cards and invitations one by one. He also had to send back the gifts sent by the major forces and families. Although this was not a dangerous or difficult task, it was an extremely exhausting task. Of course, Ji Tianxing didn't have to worry about this. In any case, the Beast King was more familiar with the central state, so it would be easier for him to deal with these matters. After Ji Tianxing sent the Beast King away, Ji Ku and Yin came to his room and chatted with him. More than half a month had passed since Ji Ku transformed into the golden raccoon demon race. Now that she had gradually grasped the method to control her demonic power, she usually hid her claws, ears, and tail. Her appearance was no different from that of a human in the past. When Ji Tianxing heard the news, he also felt gratified for her. At this time, Yin frowned and thought for a moment, then asked with some concern, "Senior brother Tianxing, you will enter the monarch mansion soon. But junior sister Ji Ku and I have nowhere to go, so we can only stay in Clear Breeze Courtyard. Once you enter the monarch mansion, you won't be able to go in and out at will. It will be difficult for us to see you in the future." Ji Ku also had the same thoughts and worries, nodding, "Yes, we have no relatives or friends in the central state. Apart from Clear Breeze Courtyard, we don't know where else to go." Her eyes were full of reluctance, obviously unwilling to be separated from Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing saw that the two of them were a little sad and depressed, so he smiled and comforted them. "Don't worry, after senior brother enters the monarch mansion, I won't leave you alone. I saw in the monarch mansion before that each emperor's son has a spirit vein and a dazzling cave dwelling. Each emperor's son has his own family's trusted aides, as well as 1 to 200 guards and maids. They can both guard the cave dwelling and act as their guards when they go out. If you want to enter the monarch mansion with me, of course I can take you in. There shouldn't be any problem. However, in the monarch mansion, only the emperor's son and god-tier masters have noble status. Those servants, trusted aides, and guards of the emperor's son have no status." Hearing what he said, Ji Ku's eyes suddenly lit up, revealing a strong sense of expectation, and said excitedly, "Brother Tianxing, you can take us in? That's great. As long as we can follow you into the monarch mansion and not be separated from you, I'm willing to even give you maids and maids." Yin also showed a smile and nodded repeatedly. "Senior brother Tianxing, I can be your attendant and guard. As long as you don't leave us, I'm willing to do anything." Ji Ku immediately laughed and joked, "Cuckoo, Yin one of you is the princess of the Qinyan kingdom. The other is the crown prince of the Hu clan. You want to be my maids and guards? I can't accept this. If others know, I'm afraid they'll say that I'm not strong enough and don't have a good reputation, but I'm arrogant and ostentatious." Ji Ku and Yin were amused, but they didn't care about the false reputation. Ji Ku chuckled and said, "Brother Tianxing, we're just princes and princesses from small places. We're nothing in Zhongzhou City. Among the hundreds of thousands of people watching the battle in the square today, there might be thousands of princes and princesses." Yin also nodded in agreement. "The emperor's son is the most honorable person in Zhongzhou, and even in the mysterious heavenly continent. To the cultivators and people of Zhongzhou, it's also a great honor to be the emperor's guard and maid." Although Ji Ku and Yin said these words as if they were joking. However, Ji Tianxing understood that the two of them really didn't care about their status and reputation. They just wanted to follow him into the monarch mansion. Therefore, he nodded and agreed to this matter. "Cuckoo, Yin the three of us left the sect together and came to Zhongzhou City. The three of us should enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. Since you don't mind, senior brother will of course take you into the monarch mansion. In the future, when you follow me, there's no need to call yourselves guards and maids. We're still brothers of the same sect. As long as I have something, I'll give you a share." Hearing his words, Ji Ku and Yin were even happier. The worries and concerns in their hearts finally dissipated. However, the three of them chatted happily for a while. Yin suddenly remembered something, and his mood gradually fell. Ji Tianxing saw that he was hiding something, so he asked, "Yin what's wrong? Why are you unhappy?" Yin hesitated for a moment before he whispered with a pout, "Senior brother Tianxing, it's been 3 days since you defeated the emperor. No matter how busy senior sister is, she should have come to visit us, right? Did eldest senior sister forget about us after entering the monarch mansion? Ji Tianxing shook his head and comforted him with a smile. Yin'er, senior sister is not that kind of person. The monarch mansion is a holy land of martial arts. The rules there are strict. It's not a place where you can enter and leave as you wish. When we enter the monarch mansion, we have to be careful. We can't be rash and impulsive, so as to avoid being caught by people with ulterior motives. Senior sister must have her difficulties. Don't worry. After we enter the monarch mansion, we'll see her. Yen nodded and responded. Ji Tianxing revealed a smile and reminded him in Ji Ku. All right, go back and prepare. We'll enter the monarch mansion in 2 days. Chapter 529. In the southern region of Central State, in the sky-connecting mountain range. On the majestic sky-connecting peak was where the human imperial court was located. The 3 palaces, 9 halls, and 18 courtyards formed a majestic and sacred group of palaces. At this time, the emperor and the imperial tutor had just returned to the imperial court from Central State City. Inside the palace of heaven and earth, in the spacious and elegant imperial study, the emperor was wearing a noble and dignified golden dragon robe and a purple gold dragon crown. He was sitting in front of a large table, reading the memorials and letters on the table. He reached out and picked up a dark gold memorial and saw the words Heavenly Stellar Region at the bottom right. Oh, a memorial from the Heavenly Stellar Region? The emperor raised his eyebrows as a glint flashed in his eyes. He opened the exquisite and luxurious memorial and carefully read the contents. The memorial was filled with lines of vigorous and powerful words. There were at least tens of thousands of words written on it. Greetings to your majesty. I am a Sky Pillar sect master, Chu Tiansheng. I hereby present a memorial to your majesty to report the details of the Demon King's rebellion. 3 months ago, the Tianjin sect, led the 4 great sects, were bewitched by the remnants of the demon race and joined forces to besiege the Sky Pillar sect. Our sect's spirit vein array had long been destroyed by the remnants of the demon race, causing the array that sealed the Demon King to lose its power. When our sect was desperately resisting the 4 great sects, the Demon King took the opportunity to break the seal and reappear in the world. He started a massacre in our sect. Our sect and the 4 great sects suffered heavy losses. The Demon King killed thousands of martial artists and was about to condense the Demon King's true body. At the critical moment, our sect's elite disciple, Ji Tianxing, stepped forward bravely and faced the Demon King alone. He swore to protect our sect's disciples. When he read this, the emperor frowned and muttered in confusion, Ji Tianxing? So it's him. The emperor revealed a look of realization and said with a complicated expression, I didn't expect that the young genius who could defeat Yun Xiao was actually an elite disciple of the Sky Pillar sect. He nodded slightly. He already had an idea in his heart, so he continued reading. Ji Tianxing possesses the bloodline of the Kenshin. Together with the strength of hundreds of martial artists from our sect, they finally managed to severely injure the Demon Emperor and force him to flee. When he saw these words, the emperor's pupils immediately shrank, and his face was filled with shock. He stared at the memorial in disbelief. He was silent for a long time with a face full of shock. Only then did he take a deep breath. Even with the exalted status of the human race supreme, when he saw that Ji Tianxing possessed the Kenshin bloodline, his heart was filled with shock and disbelief. He silently put down the memorial, and a look of understanding appeared on his resolute and dignified face. No wonder this child's talent is monstrous, being able to defeat Yun Xiao and become the #1 genius of the human race. Kenshin bloodline. He actually has Kenshin blood. The emperor was silent for a moment before he ordered in a dignified tone, Commander Yu, send a message to the imperial tutor. Tell him to come to the study for an audience. I have something important to discuss. The burly general guarding the door of the study immediately bowed and accepted the order. He left the study to pass on the order. It didn't take long for Commander Yu to return. Behind him was the emperor's preceptor, whose hair and beard were completely white. The imperial tutor held the golden horsetail whisk and entered the study. He came to the table and bowed to the emperor. "Your Majesty, may I know what instructions you have for me?" The emperor did not explain. He solemnly picked up the memorial and handed it to the imperial tutor. The imperial tutor glanced at the words Tianshan region on the memorial and vaguely understood something. He reached out to take the memorial and read it carefully. A moment later, when the imperial tutor saw the words Ji Tianxing and Qinshin bloodline in the memorial, his body also trembled. His face was filled with deep shock, and his eyes were surging with light. He looked at the emperor in disbelief and asked, "The elite disciple that Chu Tianxing mentioned, the one who injured the ancient demon emperor, is the one who defeated the son of heaven, Ji Tianxing? This child actually has Qinshin bloodline?" The emperor nodded solemnly. "That's right." The imperial tutor frowned. This old man had just sent people to investigate Ji Tianxing's background. I didn't expect the results to come so quickly. However, it was 4 months ago that the ancient demon emperor broke the seal and started a massacre in the Sky Pillar sect. Why did Chu Tianxing only submit the memorial now? The emperor raised his eyebrows and explained, "This memorial was sent from the Sky Pillar sect a month ago. After all, it takes a month for the messenger to rush from the Sky Pillar sect to the imperial court. Moreover, before the demon emperor broke the seal, Chu Tianxing was ambushed by a demon expert and was seriously injured, so he had to go into seclusion. By the time he came out, the matter had already passed, and he was busy rebuilding the sect, so the time to submit the memorial was a bit late." "I see." The imperial tutor finally understood the reason and nodded. He said solemnly, "Half a year ago, this old man discovered that Qinshin's fated star had lit up again, so I sent people to the 9 southern regions to look for it. However, many guards and secret agents searched bitterly for half a year without any results. I didn't expect that someone had inherited the Qinshin bloodline. No wonder they couldn't find any clues related to the Qinshin." After pausing for a moment, the imperial preceptor frowned and said, "This old man has read many legends about the sword god in the history books. Many of them recorded that the sword god had an ultimate sword technique. It was to summon a huge sword that could split the heaven and earth from the 9 heavens and use its supreme divine might to kill the enemy. I don't know if the emperor still remembers that during the battle between Ji Tianxing and the son of heaven today, Ji Tianxing used the final move, sword comes, slash. It's very similar to Qinshin's ultimate sword technique. This old man boldly speculates that after Ji Tianxing inherited the Qinshin bloodline, he might have also inherited the Qinshin's ultimate technique." The emperor recalled the scene at that time and immediately nodded in agreement. "That's right. The sword technique that Ji Tianxing used today is indeed very similar to Qinshin's ultimate technique. If this boy has really inherited the Qinshin's ultimate technique, then he can be regarded as the Qinshin successor. At our level, we all know how miraculous and powerful Qinshin's ultimate technique is. Therefore, Ji Tianxing must be used by our human race." The imperial tutor nodded solemnly and stroked his beard. "That's right. With Ji Tianxing's unparalleled aptitude and talent, coupled with the cultivation of Qinshin's ultimate technique, he will soon become a world-famous powerhouse. If he can be used by our race, then it will be a blessing for our human race. If by any chance he is roped in by the monster race or the water race and joins their forces, then the consequences will be unimaginable." Speaking up to here, the imperial tutor respectfully cupped his hands and bowed to the emperor. He said in a sincere tone, "Emperor, this old man earnestly requests the emperor to secretly take action to resolve the enmity between Ji Tianxing and the son of heaven. No matter what, we can't let the enmity between them continue to develop, and we can't let Ji Tianxing become our enemy." Chapter 530. The emperor naturally nodded in agreement with the imperial tutor's serious advice. He nodded slightly and said with a serious expression, "The imperial tutor is right. Yin Xiao was defeated by Ji Tianxing in front of everyone. His reputation has been damaged, and his prestige has been greatly reduced. There would definitely be many people criticizing him, and there would even be some rumors and slanders. For so many years, Yin Zhao's life has been smooth, and he has not encountered any obstacles. This emperor is worried that he is young and impetuous and cannot accept this result. He will form a grudge with Ji Tianqing. The imperial tutor stroked his beard and said in a serious tone, "Therefore, this matter needs to be secretly resolved by the emperor." The emperor already had a plan in mind. He took out a piece of golden paper from the table and began to write a letter to the emperor. As he wrote the letter, he also read the contents of the letter out loud, so that the imperial tutor could also know the inside story. "My son, Yun Xiao, seeing words is like seeing a face." The battle on the emperor's stage was the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone knows about it. I have also received the news and results. Yun Xiao, ever since you stepped into martial arts cultivation at the age of 4, it has been smooth sailing for the past 20 years. However, there was always someone who was better than him. No matter who it is, they will have to experience failure. Even a peerless powerhouse like Kenshin cannot remain undefeated for his entire life. He will eventually encounter setbacks. Yun Xiao, this emperor hopes that you can face your opponent head-on and use this setback to motivate yourself to work harder. This emperor also hopes that you can bury the hatchet with Ji Tianqing. Don't lose the big picture for the small things and have conflicts with Ji Tianqing again. You and Ji Tianqing are the top geniuses of our race. In the future, you will become the pillars of our race and fight against the other races. If you can understand, respect, and support each other, and even become good friends, that is what this emperor wishes for. It is also a blessing for our race. When the emperor put down his brush, he had also finished reading the contents of the letter. He stamped the golden paper and placed the letter in an envelope. He then used a secret technique to seal it. The imperial tutor smiled and nodded. "This is good. When the emperor sees the letter, he will definitely understand what to do. Emperor, I will send someone to deliver the letter to the Son of Heaven." As he spoke, the imperial tutor reached out to take the envelope. However, the emperor waved his hand and said, "There's no hurry. This emperor still needs to write another secret letter. Later, send someone to deliver it to the monarch residence." Imperial residence? The imperial tutor was stunned for a moment before he immediately understood. The emperor's letter is for that prince. Not bad. The celestial emperor nodded and said, 3 years ago, this emperor arranged for him to enter the monarch manor and let him secretly monitor the movements of the various princes and make preparations for Cloud Sky to enter the monarch manor. In addition, this emperor also asked him to secretly protect and assist Yun Xiao. This person is a hidden chess piece that this emperor placed in the emperor's mansion. If used properly, he will definitely be of great use. The emperor lowered his head as he wrote the letter. He said, Ji Tianqing will enter the monarch manor soon. This emperor wants him to secretly keep an eye on Ji Tianqing and think of a way to get close to Ji Tianqing. From Ji Tianqing, he can find clues related to Kenshin. He also needs to investigate clearly for this emperor whether Ji Tianqing has really inherited Kenshin's secret technique. Compared to Kenshin's bloodline, Kenshin's secret technique is the most mysterious and terrifying thing. After all, once Kenshin's secret technique appears, it will be enough to shake the entire profound sky continent. Hearing the emperor's plan and arrangement, the imperial tutor nodded and said, "That's right. With the emperor's careful arrangement and treatment, it should be foolproof." Then, he took the 2 secret letters from the emperor's hands and bowed to bid farewell to the emperor. He then sent someone to deliver the letters. Very quickly, 7 days passed. In these 7 days, the central state city was bustling with noise and excitement. All kinds of rumors and slanders were spreading everywhere. The battle between Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao had already spread throughout the central state city. It had reached the point where even women and children knew about it. Not only were all the powerhouses, families, and martial artists talking about the battle between the two, but they were also talking about it. Even the common people on the streets and alleys were talking about it with great relish. Also, the news had spread out of the central state city and was spreading in all directions at a rapid speed. Ji Tianqing's name finally resounded throughout the central state land. Everyone knew about him, and he had also become one of the influential figures in the central state land. Long Yunxiao, the emperor of the imperial court who received a lot of attention, had his reputation plummeted. He had almost become the laughingstock of all the powerhouses and martial artists. Countless people were criticizing and laughing at him behind his back. All kinds of slanders emerged one after another. Of course, the powerhouses, martial artists, and common people only dared to slander and criticize him behind his back. They would never dare to speak it out in the open. In these 7 days, Long Yunxiao did not show himself. He did not hold a ceremony to select a heavenly concubine, nor did he announce the date of the selection. Everyone in the outside world guessed that Long Yunxiao's injuries were too serious, and he was in seclusion to recuperate. This morning, everyone in the cool breeze courtyard gathered in the conference hall. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin had already made preparations. They were going to the monarch mansion today. In the hall, Ji Tianxing led Ji Ku and Yin to salute the Beast King. He said with a sincere expression, "Senior Beast King, the 3 of us are going to the monarch mansion today. Thank you for taking care of us all this time. This junior will remember it in his heart." The Beast King quickly raised his hand, indicating Ji Tianxing to dispense with the formalities. He said with a smile, "Nephew Tianxing, this old man and your master are as close as brothers. What's this little help? Tianxing, the monarch mansion is sacred and dignified. There are many rules and geniuses of various races and descendants of wealthy families. The relationship between the forces is very complicated. After you enter the monarch mansion, you must be careful in everything. Don't be impulsive and reckless. You must plan slowly." The Beast King exhorted with concern. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Ji Ku listened attentively and remembered it in their hearts. After he finished speaking, White Ape stepped into the hall and cupped his hands to report to him, "Master, we're ready and can set off at any time." Hearing White Ape's words, Ji Tianxing raised his brows and asked the Beast King in puzzlement, "Senior, are you leaving too?" The Beast King nodded slightly and said with an amiable expression, "That's right. Now that the 3 of you are going to enter the monarch mansion to cultivate, this old man is also going to leave for a while and return to Beast King Valley. This time, I'm going back to Beast King Valley to deal with some matters. I don't know when I'll be able to return. This mansion is this old man's property. After this old man leaves, there will be guards guarding it. During this time, if you leave the monarch mansion, you can also stay in the Qingfeng courtyard temporarily. Thank you, Senior." Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin cupped their hands to thank the Beast King again. Then, the 3 of them bid farewell to the Beast King and left the Qingfeng courtyard, heading straight for the forest of divine monuments in the city. After they left, the Beast King also left the Qingfeng courtyard with White Ape and rushed back to the Tianshan region in the south. Announcing a VIP reader group number 2586204646. Brothers with fan points are welcome to join the group. If brothers have any questions, Little He will answer them in the group. Chapter 531. Half an hour later, Ji Tianxing brought Ji Ku and Yin to the forest of divine steels. The 3 of them passed through the forest of divine steels and walked along the black stone path to the end. They arrived at a majestic ancient door. Ji Tianxing looked up at the words "Ancient Emperor" above the door and smiled. "Emperor's mansion, here I come," he said in his heart, and took out the purple crystal token from the space ring to open the defensive array that sealed the door. Swoosh! With a flash of colorful light, the colorful barrier opened to both sides, and a white light door appeared. Ji Tianxing brought Ji Ku and Yin through the light door and entered the Emperor's mansion. The next moment, the 3 of them appeared on a vast grassland. Ji Tianxing had been to the Emperor's mansion before and was familiar with the scene in front of him. Ji Ku and Yin on the other hand, looked around curiously. In this vast world, there were vast grasslands and majestic mountains, as well as vast forests and lakes and rivers. It was full of spiritual qi. Seeing this scene, the 2 of them revealed excited expressions and exclaimed in surprise, "This is the most mysterious Emperor's mansion on the continent. I didn't expect that I could come here. What a beautiful place, isolated from the rest of the world." Ji Tianxing saw the two of them cheering and said with a smile, "From now on, we will live here. In the future, you will have time and opportunity to enjoy the beautiful scenery in the Emperor's mansion. But now, let's go and report to Divine Master He Yu and settle down first." After that, he turned the Kenshin battle robe into a pair of golden wings and flew into the sky with Ji Ku. They flew toward the majestic mountains in the distance. Yenner took off the fire jade bracelet from her wrist and released the wildfire white tiger from it. She rode the white tiger on a grassland and followed Ji Tianxing to the mountains in the distance. Not long after, the three of them entered the vast mountains and encountered a team of experts in black armor. These people were the guards of the imperial residence, responsible for patrolling and guarding the imperial residence. There were 10 guards in this group, and all of them had the strength of the Yuan dance stage. Moreover, they were riding on spirit birds. After the captain of the guards stopped Ji Tianxing, he asked about his identity and purpose before leading him to the Black Feather Palace. 2 hours later, the guard captain led Ji Tianxing and the other two up the cloud-shrouded Black Feather Peak and arrived at the gate of Black Feather Palace. According to the rules of the imperial residence, only Ji Tianxing could meet with Divine Teacher Black Feather. Ji Ku and Yin had to wait outside. Ji Tianxing entered the spacious and bright hall alone. He saw the black-robed and black-haired Divine Master He Yu meditating in the hall with his eyes closed. He walked to the center of the hall and stood still. He cupped his hands and bowed to Divine Teacher Black Feather. Crown Prince Ji Tianxing greets Divine Teacher Black Feather. Divine Teacher Black Feather opened his eyes and looked at him calmly. He nodded slightly and said, "Ji Tianxing, I have arranged everything for you. As the 56th Crown Prince, you can have a spirit vein and a cave residence. You can also arrange for no more than 200 followers and servants." Divine Teacher Black Feather's expression was calm as he explained his arrangements. Ji Tianxing then knew that the mountain range 400 miles to the southwest of the Black Feather Palace had become his territory. It was named the Tianxing Mountain Range. A palace had been built on the mountain range. It was named the Tianxing Palace. It would be the cave residence where he would cultivate in the future. After that, Divine Teacher Black Feather asked him for the purple crystal token. Divine Teacher Black Feather added more than 10 formations and restrictions on the token before returning it to him. This purple crystal token had become the real Crown Prince's token. With the Crown Prince's token, Ji Tianxing could enter and leave the Crown Prince's estate. He could activate the various formations and restrictions of the Tianxing Mountain Range and Tianxing Palace. After Divine Teacher Black Feather finished talking about the cave residence, he said with a stern expression, "Ji Tianxing, check your own cave residence in a bit, and then go to the Open Cloud Palace to see the Divine Teacher. You have been assigned to the Open Cloud Divine Teacher. From today onwards, the Open Cloud Divine Teacher will be responsible for teaching you martial cultivation." After he finished speaking, Ji Tianxing bowed respectfully and said, "Thank you, Divine Teacher Black Feather. I understand." Afterwards, he bowed to Divine Teacher Black Feather and left the Black Feather Palace. After leaving the Black Feather Palace, he brought Ji Ku and Yinner with him. Under the guidance of the captain of the guards, he hurried to the Tianxing Mountain Range in the southwest. When the three of them arrived at the Tianxing Mountain Range and saw the situation in the mountain range, they were all rather excited. They saw that this spirit vein was located at the southwest edge of the mountain range. It was over 100 kilometers long. The entire mountain range was covered in lush, primitive forests, and there were over a dozen peaks and several valleys. There was a surging river at the foot of the mountain, and there were waterfalls thousands of meters high in the valleys. It was as if the mountain range had been hung with jade ribbons and pearls. It was a very magnificent and beautiful sight. The peaks of the mountains were shrouded in white clouds and thick fog. It seemed like a dream, and its aura was ethereal and otherworldly. On the tallest mountain peak of the mountain range, there was a magnificent palace that occupied an area of 10 miles. This was the Heavenly Palace. The Tianxing Palace sat in a vast sea of clouds. There were even multicolored, auspicious clouds lingering above it. Such a magnificent palace seemed like a heavenly palace. The three of them arrived outside the Tianqing Palace and examined the palace up close. Beneath their feet was a path paved with black stone. In front of them was a square that was 1,000 meters in radius. After passing through the square, they would arrive at the gates of the Tianqing Palace. The towering palace gate, which was 100 meters tall, was built with dark green boulders and set up with a powerful defensive formation. On the lintel directly above the palace gate, the words Tianqing Palace were carved in flamboyant calligraphy. It exuded a noble and powerful aura. From now on, this is my territory. I finally have my own spirit vein and cave abode. Ji Tianqing looked at the majestic palace with a gratified smile in his eyes. Then, he led Ji Ku and Yin Earth through the square and walked to the palace gate. He opened the palace gate with the emperor's token and led the two of them into the palace. There were 3 courtyards in the Tianqing Palace. There were 3 majestic palaces that covered an area of more than 1,000 meters. Around the 3 main palaces, there were rows upon rows of houses and buildings. There were also 2 beautiful gardens and 2 lakes that were as clear as mirrors. There are thousands of houses of various sizes in the entire Tianqing Palace, not to mention 100 or 200 attendants and guards. Even if thousands of people lived in it, it would not feel crowded. Jiku and Yin walked in the huge Tianqing Palace. Their hearts were filled with shock and amazement. They could not help but cheer in surprise. Brother Tianqing, your cave abode is bigger and more luxurious than the imperial palace of the royal Azure Kingdom. Yin also nodded and praised. Senior brother Tianqing, even the imperial palace of our fire tribe can't compare to your cave abode. The spiritual energy and resources here are too rich. It's simply the perfect cultivation ground. Chapter 532. Jiku and Yin were extremely excited. They walked around Tianqing Palace, looking around curiously. Ji Tianqing had the two of them stay in Tianqing Palace to familiarize themselves with the palace's environment first. He left Tianqing Palace and followed the captain of the guards to Open Cloud Palace. On the way to Open Cloud Palace, he thought to himself, I wonder what race that Open Cloud Divine Master is from, and what he looks like. How many princes does he have under him? And how does he usually teach the princes how to cultivate? Ji Tianqing was still very unfamiliar with the imperial residence and did not understand the situation there. Before today, he only knew of Divine Master Heiyu. He had not even heard of the other 9 Divine Masters. He was naturally filled with curiosity and doubt about the Open Cloud Divine Master that he had yet to meet. 2 hours later, Ji Tianqing arrived at Open Cloud Peak in the middle of the mountains under the captain's guidance. He landed outside Open Cloud Palace. The guard captain bowed to him and took his leave. Ji Tianqing tidied up his clothes and long hair and walked towards the gates of Open Cloud Palace alone. There were a few guards standing guard at the gates. After they stopped him, they asked him about his identity and his purpose for coming. He showed his imperial token, and the guards let him pass, allowing him to enter Open Cloud Palace. He passed through the gates of the palace, followed the clean and tidy path, passed through the first courtyard, and entered the majestic palace. As soon as he entered the main hall, he saw 4 noble and handsome princes standing in the main hall. These 4 princes were all extraordinarily handsome youths, but they came from different races. 2 of them were human youths, and the other 2 were foreign youths. The 4 of them stood quietly in the main hall, deep in thought. They seemed to be listening to instructions. Ji Tianqing's gaze passed over the 4 of them and looked towards the seat of honor in the main hall. He saw a black-robed, dignified, middle-aged human man sitting on a dark golden throne inlaid with jade. This person was tall and burly, and his facial features were as angular as a rock. He exuded a resolute and dignified temperament, especially his deep eyes. They were calm and indifferent, and they contained the extraordinary bearing of an expert that looked down upon all living beings. Ji Tianqing immediately guessed that this black-robed man should be the Clear Cloud Divine Sage. At this moment, the Clear Cloud Divine Master was currently explaining the mysteries of a certain internal cultivation method to the 4 princes, dissecting the essence of the cultivation method. His voice was slightly low and deep, and it contained a sense of solemnity and seriousness, causing those who heard it to feel deep veneration and listen attentively. Ji Tianxing strode into the hall and stood still in the middle. He bowed towards the clear cloud divine sage and said, I, Emperor Ji Tianxing, have just entered the imperial residence today. I've come to pay my respects to the clear cloud divine sage. The clear cloud divine sage stopped teaching and looked at him calmly. He sized him up a few times. The four princes also looked at Ji Tianxing with different expressions as they observed him silently. A while later, the clear cloud divine sage nodded slightly and said to Ji Tianxing, Ji Tianxing, you've already paid your respects to the divine sage Heiyu, right? Ji Tianxing replied honestly, yes. The divine sage Heiyu has already arranged a dwelling for me and assigned me to be under your command. The clear cloud divine sage nodded and said sternly, correct. From today onwards, you are one of the princes under my tutelage. I will teach you martial cultivation. There are a total of 10 divine sages in the imperial residence. As a great divine sage, the divine sage Heiyu has never personally taught the princes. The current 56 princes are taught by me and the 8 divine sages. Every divine sage has a few princes under them. In the future, if you have any questions or problems with cultivation, you can come to the Clear Cloud Palace to ask me for guidance. Ji Tianxing nodded to show that he understood. He said calmly, the princes have just entered the imperial residence. I hope that the divine sage, Clear Cloud Divine Sage, can guide and take care of me in the future. The divine sage, Clear Cloud Divine Sage, nodded and continued. Now that you are under my tutelage, you can come to the Clear Cloud Palace at any time. You will not be restricted or obstructed. However, if you have any matters or questions about cultivation and want to see the other divine sages, you must first hand over an invitation and wait for the divine sage's notice. There are many rules in the imperial residence, and they are very strict. The relevant books have already been prepared in your dwelling. Once you return to your dwelling, you can take some time to read them carefully. You need to understand the rules of the residence as soon as possible. Ji Tianxing clasped his hands and bowed. He said, as you wish, divine sage. The divine sage, Clear Cloud Divine Sage, then looked at the 4 princes in the hall. He said sternly, from today onwards, Ji Tianxing is the 5th prince under my tutelage. The 5 of you will also become fellow disciples. Get to know each other first. Hearing this, the 4 princes all looked at Ji Tianxing, revealing different expressions. The prince who spoke first was actually not one of the 2 human youths. Instead, he was a 2-meter-tall demon wearing a white fox fur coat. This person had a head of silver hair, and his face was handsome and resolute. His silver eyes exuded a mysterious and unruly aura. He looked at Ji Tianxing with a smile and clasped his hands. He said playfully, Ji Tianxing, we meet again. When Ji Tianxing saw his appearance clearly, he could not help but reveal a sliver of astonishment. Kun Wu? I didn't think you would also be under the divine sage, Clear Cloud Divine Sage's tutelage. Kun Wu only smiled and nodded. He did not say anything. Immediately afterwards, a human youth wearing luxurious blue robes and holding a green jade fan clasped his hands and greeted Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing, I am Murong Lingfeng. From now on, we will be fellow disciples. If you have any difficulties, feel free to come find me. Hearing this clear voice, Ji Tianxing subconsciously looked at Murong Lingfeng. When he saw Murong Lingfeng's appearance clearly, he was instantly stunned. A strange look flashed through his eyes. This was because this prince named Murong Lingfeng was actually born with a picturesque appearance. His skin was delicate, and his appearance was as beautiful as a peerless beauty. If it were not for his masculine voice, Ji Tianxing would have almost mistaken him for a woman. He had a smile on his face, and there was a hint of tenderness and goodwill in his eyes. Ji Tianxing politely declined the flirtatious look in his eyes. He clasped his hands expressionlessly and said, Many thanks, Brother Murong. At this moment, another human youth stepped forward and clasped his hands at Ji Tianxing with a smile. Junior brother Ji, I am Ling Yichuan. If you have any needs in the future, feel free to tell me. This young man, named Ling Xin, had a tall figure and a handsome face. He had the appearance of a distinguished and elegant young master, and he had a rather carefree and forthright air about him. Like Murong Lingfeng, he expressed goodwill to Ji Tianxing. His expression and eyes were very sincere and would not cause others to be wary. Ji Tianxing also smiled and returned the greeting. He said to him, "Many thanks, senior brother Ling. The last prince was from the water tribe. His skin was dark, and fine scales could be faintly seen on his arms and neck. This person's appearance was ordinary, and his temperament was somewhat cold and gloomy." Chapter 533. Ji Tianxing greeted the four princes, exchanging names and becoming acquainted with them. Although appearance couldn't represent a person's character, good or evil, but Ji Tianxing's first impression of these four people was different, and he already had a sense of propriety and calculation in his heart. After Ji Tianxing greeted the four people and exchanged some pleasantries, the Clear Cloud Divine Sage said, "Today's morning class ends here. You can all withdraw." Ji Tianxing and the four princes bowed and bid farewell to the Clear Cloud Divine Sage, then turned and walked out of Clear Cloud Palace. After leaving Clear Cloud Peak, Ji Tianxing flew into the sky, returning to Tianxing Palace. However, he had just flown 1,000 meters when Murong Lingfeng caught up and blocked his path. "Junior apprentice brother Ji, please wait." Murong Lingfeng flew in front of him, holding a green jade folding fan and cupping his hands in greeting. "Junior apprentice brother Ji, that day when you challenged Long Yunxiao on the monarch stage, I was also there to watch. At that time, the situation wasn't suitable, so I didn't congratulate you on the spot. Now, I'll add a few words of congratulations to you, junior apprentice brother." Murong Lingfeng congratulated Ji Tianxing with a smile on his face. His words and actions were quite intimate. Of course, while he acted intimate on the surface, there was a hint of coldness and arrogance hidden in the depths of his eyes. Obviously, he didn't really take Ji Tianxing seriously. Ji Tianxing looked at him expressionlessly and cupped his hands in thanks, then turned to leave. Murong Lingfeng saw his cold reaction and couldn't help but frown. He stopped him again and said with a smile, "Junior apprentice brother Ji, I heard that you're not from the Middle State, and seem to have come from the 9 regions of the South. Now that you've just entered the Monarch Manor, you definitely don't have any attendants or maids by your side. Not only does this damage your status as a prince, it's also quite inconvenient for you to do things. It just so happens that I've recently recruited a group of capable guards, as well as a dozen or so young and beautiful maids. If junior apprentice brother Ji doesn't mind, I'll gift those guards and maids to you, so you don't have to worry about these trivial matters." Murong Lingfeng's words were clearly meant to use actions to express goodwill and win over Ji Tianxing. As long as one wasn't an idiot, one would be able to understand his intention of roping them in. However, Ji Tianxing didn't seem to understand what he meant as he calmly cupped his hands and said, "I appreciate Brother Murong's good intentions, but I have always liked peace and quiet, so I don't need a maid to serve me. If Brother Murong doesn't have any other matters, then I'll take my leave." After saying that, Ji Tianxing ignored Murong Lingfeng's urging to stay, turned around, and flew away. Murong Lingfeng watched as his figure disappeared into the sea of clouds. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and his expression became somewhat gloomy. A lowly commoner from one of the 9 territories of the southern continent actually dares to refuse this young master's good intentions? You truly don't know how to appreciate favors. He cursed angrily before turning around and leaving. Murong Lingfeng was born in the Murong family and was the son of the first wife of the Murong family. How noble was his status! In his eyes, the southern continent's 9 territories were poor and desolate lands. Only the central state was a bustling place. People who walked out of the southern continent's 9 territories were lowly commoners. Furthermore, he was ranked 7th in the Emperor Manor. His strength and status were both very high. Many princes revered him. Who dared to refuse his roping in and getting close to him? Ji Tianxing actually didn't know what was good for him and didn't give him any face. This made him a little angry in his heart. However, Murong Lingfeng calmed down very quickly and suppressed the anger in his heart. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile as he thought to himself, Ji Tianxing defeated Long Yunxiao in front of everyone and even seriously injured Long Yunxiao. In these few days, everyone in the central state city was talking about Long Yunxiao. His reputation was damaged, and the prestige of the Son of Heaven also plummeted. With Long Yunxiao's arrogant personality, he definitely won't be able to swallow this anger. He will definitely fight Ji Tianxing to the death. Sooner or later, he will find Ji Tianxing for revenge. Although Ji Tianxing has shocking talent and strength, he is a lowly commoner without any background or backing. It will be very difficult for him to gain a foothold in the central state. Even if this brat doesn't know how to appreciate favors and temporarily refuses to accept my invitation, I can't give up so easily. I must think of a way to win him over. If I can pull him under my command and use him to deal with Long Yunxiao, that would be the best. If I let him deal with Long Yunxiao, I can complete the Lord's plan and it won't implicate the Murong family. It's the best of both worlds. Furthermore, even if Ji Tianxing knows that I'm using him, he can't do anything about it and can only swallow his anger. How could a lowly commoner without any backing like him dare to make an enemy out of the Murong family? Thinking of this, the cold smile on Murong Lingfeng's lips became even wider, and his eyes revealed a pleased look. 2 hours later, Ji Tianxing returned to Tianxing Palace. He entered the first courtyard's guest hall and sat down to chat with Ji Ku. At this time, Yener quickly walked into the hall and said to Ji Tianxing, "Senior brother Tianxing, Kuan Wu has come to find you. He's waiting outside the door." "What's he doing here?" Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment before saying, "Yener, bring him in." "Okay." Yener responded and quickly turned around to leave the hall. Not long after, Yener brought Kuan Wu back to the hall. Kuan Wu walked in front of Ji Tianxing with a smile and cupped his hands in greeting. "Junior brother Ji, I trust you've been well since we last met." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in return and extended his hand to make a pleased gesture, indicating that he should sit down and talk. "Kuan Wu, what business do you have with me?" After Kuan Wu sat down, he smiled and said, "This monarch has come to find you for 2 matters. The first is to congratulate you on passing the examination and successfully entering the monarch mansion." "Thank you." Ji Tianxing nodded and asked, "What's the second matter?" Kuan Wu turned his head to look at Ji Ku and smiled. "In addition to congratulating you, this monarch also wants to see Ji Ku." He looked at Ji Ku with concern. After sizing him up a few times, he asked, "Ji Ku, you can already hide the characteristics of our Golden Raccoon clan. It seems that you've already escaped danger and learned how to control your demon power." If it was a month ago, Ji Ku would still have some disgust and resistance towards Kuan Wu. However, now that she had accepted her identity as a member of the Golden Raccoon clan, she could face everything calmly. When she saw Kuan Wu again, she didn't feel as disgusted as before. She nodded to Kuan Wu and said in a calm tone, "Thank you for the pill you gave me before." Kuan Wu waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's nothing. Don't mention it." "Ji Ku, this monarch still has a few more pills and a secret cultivation method of the Golden Raccoon clan. If you cultivate according to this secret cultivation method, not only will you be able to quickly refine your demon power, but it will also allow you to quickly increase your strength. It will be faster than cultivating human martial arts." As he spoke, Kuan Wu took out a small white jade bottle and a simple yellow secret manual from his interspatial ring. Ji Ku didn't reach out to take it. He turned his head to look at Ji Tianxing and asked for his opinion with his eyes. Chapter 534. Since Ji Tianxing had agreed, Ji Ku naturally did as she was told. She accepted the medicinal pills and secret manuals from Kun Wu, nodded to Kun Wu, and thanked him. Kuan Wu could see that Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku no longer held any hostility towards him, so he heaved a sigh of relief. He said in a sincere tone, "Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, if you encounter any difficulties in the Monarch Mansion, feel free to come to Kun Wu Palace to look for me. As long as it is within my power, I will definitely help you. Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku both smiled and expressed their gratitude to him. Kunwu didn't say anything else and got up to bow and take his leave. You just entered the monarch mansion, so you must have a lot of things to do. It's inconvenient for me to disturb you, so I'll take my leave. Ji Tianxing got up to see him off and asked Yin to send him out of Tianxing Palace. Silence was restored in the hall as Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku sat down to talk. The two chatted for a while and were talking about the layout of Tianxing Palace and the two gardens. At this time, Yin walked into the hall again with a letter in her hand and came to Ji Tianxing. Senior Marshal Brother Tianxing, just as I sent Kunwu away, a woman came to the outside of the palace and asked to see you. She claimed to be eldest senior marshal's sister's maid and specially sent a letter asking me to personally hand it to you. A letter from eldest senior marshal's sister? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows slightly and muttered in confusion. If she wanted to see me, she could have come directly to Tianxing Palace. Why would she send a maid to deliver a letter? As he spoke, he reached out and took the letter from Yin. After opening the envelope, he took out the letter and carefully read it. The letter paper, made of hibiscus, was tough and delicate, and it contained a faint fragrance. The content of the letter was very little, only a line of beautiful words. Tianxing, I'll be waiting for you by Yunxiu Lake. I have something to discuss with you. Ji Tianxing kept the letter in his spatial ring. Then he said to Ji Ku and Yin, eldest senior sister is looking for me. You two stay in the palace and don't leave. I'll be back soon. Ji Ku and Yin both nodded to show that they understood and gave him a few instructions. Ji Tianxing quickly left Tianxing Palace and flew into the sky. He flew towards Yunxiu Lake as fast as lightning. The elegant cloud lake was a clear and bright lake with a radius of 100 miles. It was located in the southeast of the mountains and was hidden by a few mountain ranges. Ji Tianxing didn't quite understand why Yun Yao wanted to meet him there. However, he knew that Yun Yao had her reasons for doing so. Half an hour later, Ji Tianxing flew above Yunxiu Lake and looked down at the situation below. He saw that Yunxiu Lake was surrounded by several towering mountain ranges, and the lake was covered with white clouds and thick fog. Looking down from the sky, it was impossible to see the lake's surface and the lakeside. The environment here was secluded, and very few people came here. It was very secluded. Ji Tianxing landed on the lakeside and stood on a green grassland. He keenly looked around for Yun Yao's figure. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice suddenly came from behind him. Tianxing, I'm here. Ji Tianxing quickly turned around and saw a beautiful woman in a white dress standing under a willow tree 100 steps behind him. It was Yun Yao. Yun Yao had been waiting for him under the willow tree. She didn't show up until he came. Ji Tianxing quickly walked to the willow tree and stood in front of Yun Yao. He smiled and said, Yao Yao, I'm here. Yun Yao nodded and said in a soft tone, Tianxing, long time no see. How are you doing? Were you injured when you fought with Long Yun Xiao on the monarch stage that day? Ji Tianxing gently shook his head and said, I'm fine. I made you worry. Yao Yao, why didn't you go to Tianxing Palace to find me? Instead, you asked to meet me here? Yun Yao calmly explained, Tianxing, the relationship between the major forces in the central state is a little complicated. It's hard to explain it clearly in a short time. Cloud Spirit Palace is now in a dangerous situation, and you and I are also at the heart of the struggle. That's why I didn't visit you before. Even if you enter the Monarch Palace, I couldn't go to Tianxing Palace to find you, so as to avoid being discovered by people with ulterior motives. However, there are some things that can't be explained in a letter. I have to tell you in person, so I can only take the risk and ask to meet you here. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said calmly, Yao Yao, you don't have to explain anything. I understand that you have your own considerations and difficulties. It's good that you can understand. Yun Yao's eyes revealed a touch of gratification. Then, she said with a serious expression, Tianxing, now that you have entered the Monarch Palace, if you want to establish yourself in the Central State City, you have to understand the power structure of the Central State. In our human race, the strongest is the imperial court, followed by the three great families. These three ancient families, other than our Cloud Spirit Palace, there's also the Murong family and the Duanmu family. For many years, the three great families have been in a tripartite balance of power, fighting both openly and covertly. However, the three great families are independent of each other and have always maintained a balance. However, in recent years, there seems to be a mastermind behind the scenes who is plotting something, actually making the Murong and Duanmu families work together to deal with our Yun family. The Yun family is gradually declining, while the Murong and Duanmu families are becoming more and more arrogant and despotic, becoming more and more unrestrained. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said with a serious expression, "If there really is a mastermind behind the scenes controlling the two great families, then the mastermind behind the scenes must be terrifyingly powerful. A power that can make the two ancient families bow their heads. I'm afraid it's related to the imperial court, right?" Yin Yao looked at him with some surprise and nodded. "Tianqing, I didn't expect you to understand so quickly. You guessed right. Mother and I have also analyzed that the mastermind behind the scenes is most likely a descendant of the imperial court. However, the imperial court has many descendants. Other than the emperor, there are also several princes, princesses, and kings. Before we have conclusive evidence, we can't determine who is the mastermind behind the scenes." Ji Tianqing frowned and said in a serious tone, "This matter involves the imperial court's descendants. Your Yin family must be careful and not make the slightest mistake. Otherwise, it will be a great disaster." "That's right." Yin Yao nodded and said with a serious expression, "Therefore, the Yun family's current situation is worrying. Mother is also very worried about this matter. Tianqing, you have become famous in this battle. After becoming the emperor, you will definitely be targeted by the two great families. The Murong family's legitimate son, Murong Lingfeng, and the Duanmu family's Duanmu Yulong. Both of them are in the Emperor Manor. Moreover, they have been in the Emperor Manor for many years and have already built a deep network of forces. You must be on guard against the people from the two great families. Don't have any contact with them. No matter how they behave, no matter how sincere they are to you, they must have other motives and schemes." Hearing Yun Yao's serious warning, Ji Tianqing came to a realization and nodded. "So that's how it is." Chapter 535. Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Yun Yao immediately furrowed her brows, and a trace of worry flashed across her eyes. "Tianqing, you just entered the monarch mansion today, and Murong Lingfeng already came to find you?" Murong Lingfeng is actually so impatient. It seems like he has long been plotting something. Ji Tianqing revealed a playful smile and explained, "Today, I went to meet God Sage Yu and was assigned to God Sage Clear Cloud's tutelage. Coincidentally, Murong Lingfeng is also under God Sage Clear Cloud's tutelage. When he saw me for the first time, he clearly had a good impression of me and wanted to get close to me. At that time, I felt that it was strange. This person and I have never met before, so why would he be so friendly to me for no reason? Now that I think about it, this person most likely wants to use me, right?" After speaking, he stared at Yin Yao and said solemnly, "Yao Yao, don't worry. I originally had no intention of befriending those aristocratic families and powers. Murong Lingfeng expressed his goodwill to me, but I already rejected him. Since the Murong family and Duanmu family have other plans, it's even more impossible for me to interact with them. Furthermore, I will be careful to guard against them and not give them a chance to take advantage of me." Yin Yao nodded and said, Tianqing, it's good that you understand. Although the monarch mansion is a holy land of martial arts, it's not a peaceful place for cultivation. The relationships and situation in the mansion are also very complicated. There are more than 50 princes in the mansion, and they come from various powers, aristocratic families, and imperial courts of the three major races. They all have different camps and goals. Although everyone looks calm on the surface, there are actually turbulent undercurrents. For so many years, they have been fighting openly and covertly. Yin Yao briefly explained the situation in the monarch mansion and reminded Ji Tianqing to be careful. Ji Tianqing listened attentively. After she finished speaking, he looked at her with a gentle gaze and said calmly, Yao Yao. Actually, before this, I never thought of entering the monarch mansion, nor did I think of obtaining the fame I have today. All of this originated from what your mother said. She told me that only by entering the monarch mansion and becoming a noble prince would I have the right to interact with you. From that moment on, I decided that no matter what, I had to enter the monarch mansion. I don't care about the glory and prestige of becoming a prince, nor do I care about the reverence and worship of the people. I only care about you. Yin Yao's heartbeat sped up as she was stared at by his gentle yet firm gaze. A hint of gentleness appeared in her eyes. She nodded and stared at Ji Tianxing and said, Tianxing, I understand your intentions. Everything you did, all of this for me. You are not a prince of the aristocratic family's mansion, of course. But Yun's is heavens is because the future, there will be bloodsheds of heaven. There is no way. You, edition, eds of yes. Ji Tianxing nodded and said firmly, That's right. The grudges of the three aristocratic families, the situation between the different clans, and the fight in the monarch mansion are all earth-shattering. But even if I'm a lone boat, I must ride the wind and break the waves, moving forward courageously. Life is like a game of chess, and I'm willing to be a pawn. Although my actions are slow, who has seen me take half a step back? When he said these bold words, an invisible aura of an expert was emitted from his body. He was quite persistent and confident. Yin Yao looked at him with shining eyes. She stretched out her slender fingers to hold his hand and said solemnly, No, Tianxing, you are not a lone boat. I will always be by your side, and we will weather the storm together. The two of them looked at each other and saw the determination and persistence in each other's eyes. After a long time, Yin Yao let go of Ji Tianxing's hand and said in a low voice, Tianxing, we should go back. Ji Tianxing hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Yin Yao was about to leave, he said, Yao Yao, there's something I want to tell you. Yin Yao asked calmly, What is it? Ji Tianxing said in a low voice, Actually, Long Yunxiao is not a hateful person. He is not a bad person. Although he is cold and arrogant on the surface, I can see that he is sincerely good to you. In order to make you happy, he has made a lot of sacrifices in secret. Maybe you don't need to hate and be hostile to him. I think he's a good friend. Yin Yao was startled for a moment, then nodded and said, Yes, I know what you said. Long Yunxiao is not a hedonistic son of a rich family, nor is he a vicious and sinister person. He is many times more outstanding than the children of the aristocratic families. Moreover, he has inherited His Majesty the Emperor's demeanor and bearing. He is highly regarded by the Emperor. Speaking up to here, she paused for a moment and looked deeply at Ji Tianxing. Then, she continued in a calm tone, Actually, I don't really hate him. I just don't have any romantic feelings for him. Since I am destined not to be with him, I can't be pleasant to him and show him any good feelings. I can't give him hope and fantasy, lest he misunderstand and have some unnecessary misunderstandings, which will delay our time. That's why I deliberately avoided him and treated him coldly for so many years. I just want him to give up completely and cut off his thoughts so that he doesn't have to persist in his obsession. Maybe I'm a little cruel, but in my opinion, this is the best way. Being indecisive and giving others hope and fantasy, and then extinguishing it with your own hands. That is the cruelest way. After listening to Yin Yao's words, Ji Tianxing understood her intention. He nodded and said, So that's how it is. I hope Long Yunxiao can let go of his obsession as soon as possible. This should be a kind of release for him. And I hope so. Yin Yao nodded and waved goodbye to Ji Tianxing. She took out the jade hairpin from her hair bun and turned it into a pair of wind and fire wings. She flapped them and flew into the sky, leaving graceful cloud lake. Ji Tianxing watched her figure disappear into the sea of clouds. Then, he turned and flew back in the direction of Tianxing Palace. Not long after the two of them left graceful cloud lake, a tall and sturdy figure appeared in the sea of clouds above the lake. This person was a young man of about 30 years old from the human race. He had a handsome and resolute face. He wore a luxurious green robe, and his entire body exuded a noble and dignified aura. He was the ninth prince of the emperor's residence, the first son of the Duanmu family, Duanmu Yulong. Duanmu Yulong frowned and stared in the direction Ji Tianxing left with a sinister sneer on his face. Ha! Ji Tianxing, this brat, indeed has an extraordinary relationship with Yun Yao. When he first barged into the emperor's residence, I could tell that he had something going on with Yun Yao. Fortunately, I was careful and kept an eye on his whereabouts. I didn't expect that on the first day he entered the emperor's residence, he would have a private date with Yun Yao by graceful Cloud Lake. Chapter 536. Since the day Ji Tianxing challenged Long Yunxiao, Duanmu Yulong had been paying attention to Ji Tianxing. In the past few days, he had already sent people to secretly monitor Ji Tianxing's every move. Moreover, when Ji Tianxing entered the monarch mansion, he personally monitored Ji Tianxing. His keen intuition told him that there must be some secret between Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao. Now, Duanmu Yulong had indeed found the scene of Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao meeting in secret. He had a premonition that Ji Tianxing's appearance could bring about a favorable turn for their plan. Furthermore, Ji Tianxing might become the breakthrough point for them to deal with the Yun family and Long Yunxiao. Thinking of this, Duanmu Yulong sneered and turned around to enter the boundless sea of clouds, leaving graceful Cloud Lake. He flew across the sky as fast as lightning, heading straight for the exit of the monarch mansion. 2 hours later, he quietly left the monarch mansion. Swish! With a flash of light, Duanmu Yulong appeared outside the majestic gate. He looked around and saw that there was no one in the divine steel forest, so he used a secret technique to quietly change his appearance. Although he only slightly adjusted the outline of his facial features, his appearance had undergone a subtle change, so no one would recognize him at a glance. He put on an ordinary black robe and quickly passed through the divine steel forest, rushing towards a certain place in Central State City. About half an hour later, Duanmu Yulong entered a quiet and cold palace. The palace was dimly lit, and many experts and powerhouses were hiding in the dark. Duanmu Yulong walked all the way to the depths of the palace and arrived outside a dark secret room. 2 black-robed guards guarding the door silently stopped him and coldly stared at him. These 2 guards were actually Heavenly Origin Stage powerhouses. Their auras were ice-cold, and their bodies emitted a faint, murderous aura. Duanmu Yulong was very clear about the rules. He quickly took out his identity token and handed it over to the black-robed guards for inspection. After the 2 guards verified his identity, they opened the array at the door of the secret room and respectfully reported to the inside of the secret room. Lord, Duanmu Yulong requests an audience. The gloomy secret chamber was silent. After a while, a strange voice that was neither male nor female sounded. Let him in. The black-robed guard bowed. After leaving the secret room, he made a please enter gesture to Duanmu Yulong. Duanmu Yulong's whole body flashed with brilliance, and the black robe disappeared. His facial features also changed slightly and quickly returned to normal. When he stepped into the secret room, he had already changed back to his original appearance. He was wearing a long green robe and had a handsome face. Inside the dimly lit secret chamber, there was a dense 5-colored spirit chi. A burly man in a golden robe and a dark purple cloak was standing in the secret room with his back to him. The golden-robed man exuded a noble and dignified aura as he quietly stared at the array diagram on the wall, seemingly contemplating something. Duanmu Yulong quickly bowed and respectfully said, Duanmu Yulong greets Lord. The Lord was still staring at the array diagram on the wall. Without turning his head, he said in a low voice, No need for formalities. Duanmu Yulong quickly straightened up and respectfully asked, Lord, I wonder what you ordered me to come here. The Lord leisurely said, In recent days, a boy named Ji Tianxing has become the new emperor and is about to enter the monarch mansion. Keep a close eye on this boy. If you can find a good opportunity, get rid of him as soon as possible to avoid future troubles. The Lord's voice was low and gentle, but it contained an unquestionable majesty. After Duanmu Yulong heard it, He immediately showed a surprised expression. He obviously did not expect that the Lord's order was to deal with Ji Tianqing. Why would a great figure with such a noble status like the exalted Lord pay attention to Ji Tianqing? Ji Tianqing is just a despicable person from the 9 southern regions. Even if he has become the emperor, he is still a rootless duckweed. He can't enter the Lord's eyes. Why would the Lord pay attention to him and ask me to find a chance to get rid of him? What is this boy Ji Tianqing's background? Does he have another identity or background? Duanmu Yulong was full of doubts and did not understand the Lord's order. But since the Lord had given the order, he naturally had to follow it. Moreover, since the Lord did not want to disclose the information, he did not dare to ask. Lord, please rest assured. I will follow your order. Duanmu Yulong cupped his hands and respectfully said, Lord, I have been secretly watching Ji Tianqing for the past few days. Today I found a clue. Today is the first day Ji Tianqing entered the monarch mansion. I saw him having a private rendezvous with Yun Yao. The two of them seemed to be close. The Lord did not seem to be surprised when he heard the news. His tone was still cold and deep. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao are both disciples of the Sky Pillar sect. The two of them are fellow disciples of the same sect. It is normal for them to be close to each other. Duanmu, the situation in the monarch mansion is complicated. If you want to make a move on Ji Tianqing, I'm afraid it will be difficult to find a good opportunity. If you want to kill someone with a borrowed knife or kill someone without spilling blood, you might as well use your brain and use the relationship between Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao to make a fuss. Hearing the Lord's advice and reminder, Duanmu Yulong's eyes flashed and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a sinister sneer. He nodded and quickly cupped his hands and said, Thank you for your advice, Lord. I know what to do. Moreover, I will complete the mission as soon as possible and will not disappoint the Lord. And very good. The Lord nodded slightly, seemingly satisfied with his reaction and attitude. If there is nothing else to report, you may leave. As you wish. Duanmu Yulong bowed and said goodbye to the Lord. He then turned around and left the secret room. After Duanmu Yulong left, the secret room returned to darkness and silence. Only then did the Lord slowly turn around. His appearance was the same as usual. He was wearing a half-crystal mask on his face. His appearance and features could not be seen clearly. Only a pair of unique red phoenix eyes could be seen. Humph! Ji Tianqing, I will let you live for a few more days. This Lord will soon send you to see the King of Hell. Anyone who hinders this Lord's footsteps will all die without a burial place. The great Lord murmured in a low voice as a cold light flashed in his eyes. At the same time, Duanmu Yulong left the mysterious palace. He changed into a black robe and changed his facial features. Then, he quietly returned to the monarch mansion. On the way back, he was silently calculating in his heart. Although our Duanmu family is the same as the Murong family, we work hard for the Lord. However, our Duanmu family will not fall behind the Murong family. We can't let the Murong family snatch the credit. The Lord personally summoned me and entrusted me with such an important task. He must think highly of me and doesn't trust that coquettish Murong Lingfeng. I must get rid of Ji Tianqing as soon as possible and do this beautifully. I must not disappoint the Lord.